Welcome, one and all, to Happy Hour number 25, where we're going to be covering the legend that is Street Fighter the movie. And damn, I had to enlist an expert on video game adaptations, and who better to bring in than Gman himself? How you doing, mate? It's good to have you on.
Good, mate. How you going? Thanks for having me back. Can't believe I'm back for a second episode. This is awesome.
No, absolutely. I'm sorry it's taken so long. It's just trying to get around to it. And when I sort of got in touch with you and we were talking about movies we could do, and you suggested Street Fighter, I just thought, perfect, nailed it. I cannot wait to talk about this movie.
Yeah, it's a deep dish. There's a lot you can tuck into, man, in this film, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. It's so memeable and it's so memorable, and yeah, it really comes from that stable of like mid-90s video game adaptations, like back when they were all the rage. Everyone was having a crack at it, and yeah, they they really did something special with Street Fighter. As you know, most people are aware. You think the assumption would be, well, you've got Jean Claude Van Damme in it, like who was famous for doing, fighting tournament type movies. You've got a video game that's all about a fighting tournament. The solution seems logical, so they produced a war movie.
Yeah, it was either, I guess it was either going to be John Claude or like who else was kind of big at the time. Maybe like Dolph Lundgren could have made a good Guile, but like I don't know, he didn't have the star power that John Claude had back then. Maybe, yeah.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's tough to think of a guy who's got the style and the swagger that you would want for Guile, and who was roughly the right age.
And that accent too, which totally matches his, American background from the video game. So,
well, in case you're of any doubt, like he's got the stars and stripes literally tattooed onto his bicep.
Yeah, I mean that overcomes it, so that's all you need. Yeah, you got the tattoo, that's fine. Yeah,
just so you know, he's American as fuck.
Yeah. And they have that close up when he like flexes his bicep, I think, at one point, where it like cuts just to the tattoo.
Yeah. It's amazing. There's generally so many questions about nationalities that I have in this movie, like what a sort of Shadaloo native is, because they seem to come in all shapes and sizes and colors and creeds. Like there's no kind of consistency to it at all. Bison, is he from Shadaloo? I don't know.
Bison's like, because I always assume Shadaloo is supposed to be like it's Thailand, right, or somewhere like that. And Raul Julia is what, like Hispanic or Puerto Rican or something?
He's Puerto Rican, I think. Yeah.
Playing basically like a Thai dude. So, oh, mate, it's all over the spot. Like,
You've got to love it. Like, they absolutely did not give a shit when they were making this film. See, I read that apparently when the film was kind of commissioned, like Capcom were really heavily involved in it, and the production company, they heard that like Capcom's executives were in LA, so it's like, oh, we need to present them with our ideas right away. And apparently they came up with the whole initial concept for the movie in one night. Wow. I shudder to think how much cocaine must have been consumed to make that happen.
Yeah, well, that definitely puts it into perspective, and that kind of lets you know the quality levels we're talking about, I guess.
What surprised me actually is, this movie costs $35 million, which I guess in today's money that'd be like $50 or $60 million. So not a huge budget, but it made almost $100 million. So it was considered a real box office success.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how.
Well, like, dude, when it came out, like, I don't know a single kid who didn't see it. I mean, when it came out, I was like 8 or 9, I think. But like, apart from like Mortal Kombat, and I can't remember if that came out before this or after, but like, it was just like incredible to see a game that we were all playing like regularly, and suddenly it's on the move, like up on the big screen. Like, I don't know, we just didn't have video game adaptions that much back then. Do you know what I mean? So, like, totally. Yeah, everyone I knew saw it, and we loved it as kids. Like, I don't know, you look back on it now and you can pick it to pieces, but yeah, like it's in the 90s when like Sega and Nintendo like ruled the world, like, dude, like everyone wanted to see that film. So it makes sense that it made as much money as it did.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, the game was it was massive, like, much like the film. Like everybody I knew had Street Fighter 2. Everyone had it on their console.
Just depended on what platform you would be playing it on, basically, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. But everyone kind of had access to it, and everyone knew about it, and everyone had their favorite character. And you always had that one asshole mate who just like cheesed the flying kicks, and like everyone did it. And so it was kind of exciting to see it brought to the screen. And it was round about that time. I think you also had the Mario Brothers movie. You had the Mortal Kombat, the first one at least. So it was a real thing in the 90s. And I just remember watching Street Fighter and just being really confused. Like, why is it a war film? I don't understand.
I was thinking about this when I was watching it the other night, and I almost felt like it was like they were kind of ahead of the curve in the sense, because when we're getting all these movies now, like all the Marvel films and all that stuff, and it's like, well, how can you take this really sort of over the top concept of superheroes and all that kind of stuff and put it into like a believable, realistic setting? And I guess their concept there was like, okay, well, let's take the characters and the whole drug cartel thing that Shadaloo is, and let's add I don't know, United Nations, like a terrorist aspect to it. And that was like the swing that they took with it, which like that's not uncommon now, is it? Like for those kind of films. But back then in the 90s, like maybe it would have been better if it was a bit more literal, and it was just, here's a street fighting tournament and here's a bunch of people fighting. Like Mortal Kombat just followed it much more closely. So I don't know. Yeah.
I think this way it allowed them. It was probably to win over the kid audience, so that they didn't have too much violence in it. Because if it was just a fighting tournament type movie, I think they would have ended up with like a not an R rating, but something in between, where it would have cut down their audience quite a bit. So they went for this, where it's all very kind of toned down, cartoonish violence, and there is fighting, but it's like more towards the end. And I don't know, maybe that's the reasoning for it.
There's probably literally 3 or 4 actual fight scenes in the whole thing, like proper fight scenes. And like you say, they're all like at the end of the film. I wouldn't call the whole Ryu versus Vega thing a fight scene, because it's just a giant cock tease, that thing at the start. But yeah, the end of it's the only Street Fighter sort of stuff in the whole film. But yeah,
the end of it just goes absolutely batshit crazy, and I love it. It just it loses all semblance of reality. But yeah, I mean, so just for people that aren't familiar with how we do this, so what we normally do is kind of talk our way through the movie and kind of call out the scenes that really like stood out for us and funny bits and stuff, and we tend to do the super chats and all that more towards the end, so we don't kind of stop and start. But we will get to every super chat that comes in, so not to worry. But yeah, I guess we can kind of start, if that's cool with you, man. Sort of talk about how this glorious movie comes together. So it kind of comes as, it starts off like a news broadcast, doesn't it? Like you get Chun-Li reporting from Shadaloo, which is like your kind of stereotypical Southeast Asian country where there's like a civil war going on. And it kind of just, it's there to explain your setup, basically. So you've got rebel forces under command of General Bison, who's like some kind of drug lord who's promoted himself to a general, and now he's tried to like take over the whole country. But the allied nations are there to stop him, and they've invaded the country, and they're starting to push him back, and they're led by the heroic Colonel Guile.
And what an introduction, man, when he first comes on screen. It's like amazing.
Yeah, I love when they somehow end up having a two-way kind of news conference. I don't know how does it work?
I said that the other night. I was like, how does he hear what Bison's saying? Are the speakers built into those like film cameras, TV cameras, that he can just somehow hear it?
Yeah, it's just really strange. But yeah, Bison kind of takes over the broadcast and is somehow able to communicate with Colonel Guile. So basically, they've been put into a conference call together. And Guile's just like. Yeah, he's just like fucking with him, and he's like, "Ah, you sick son of a bitch! I know you like to see yourself on TV." And then he just does this thing with his arm where it's like, flipping the bird, but with his entire arm.
And I don't know if it's like a badly written scene, but I kind of realized rewatching it that he says something to Cammy where he's like, hold him on the line or something, like they're trying to get a trace, so that's why he tries to talk to him and drag him out. But it just comes across as like a very oddly written, I don't know, like sword fighting competition, man, like straight 5 minutes into the movie.
Well, it gets even worse because basically Bison's taken like a bunch of hostages, like he's kidnapped a bunch of aid workers and like allied nation soldiers, and he's holding them in like a pit, and he's going to execute them all if he's not paid $20 billion. It's like
out of
Dr.
Austin
Evil
Powers
stuff.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, 100 billion. But yeah,
in his Swiss
he's
bank account too, which we'll talk about later, where he has
oh,
a Swiss
totally.
bank account.
I just love how he's randomly snapping people's necks as well, like while he's hanging around. He's like, "Oh, you're here to fight me, soldier. Well, now's your chance," and he just immediately snaps the guy's neck.
Yeah,
and
it's
he's
a bit
like
of a waste,
building up a little pile of corpses at his feet. But then, Colonel Guile does this really dumb move where he's like, tries to speak directly to the hostages, and it's like, "Don't worry, we're coming for you, Charlie, my best friend Charlie, who I really
with
care
brown
about."
hair and glasses, yeah.
Don't worry, buddy. And he just happens to be stood right there next to Bison, and he just snaps off his dog tags.
And for some reason, Bison says, "I'm just going to look at this guy in particular. Hang on a second," and he makes the instant connection. Perfect.
Yeah, because as well, his name's Carlos. Like I wouldn't immediately think, that's clearly Charlie right there.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good assumption, right? Carlos, Charlie. Like you'd make that instant assumption when you've got dozens of hostages and enemy soldiers captured, right? Like
100%. Yeah. This guy I randomly picked out, whose name starts with the same letter, that's got to be him.
Got to be him. Let's chuck him into the monster machine and turn him into a freak.
Yeah. So yeah, he's like, take him off to the labs. So I'm going to turn him into a super monster.
Yeah.
And that really becomes a thing later in the movie. God. But that's kind of your setup. So Bison's got all these hostages, and he's got Charlie, and he's going to kill them all if he doesn't get his $20 billion. And Guile is there to try and stop him. So that kind of gives you that setup. And then I think it kind of shoots over to Ken and Ryu, who are now like petty criminals, and like they're working with an arms dealer who's Sagat. And Christ, this whole bit is just incredible as well. Like, so they've put up together a dodgy arms deal with him, and he just seems to know, because they're planning to like screw him over, aren't they? Because they've given him fake guns or something.
Toy guns, yeah.
Because they're at like a pier or something, and he just somehow knew where they'd hidden them, and he knew they were fake, and he shoots them with it, and it's just like tennis balls or something that come out.
And I think you rewatch that scene and you realize that like they actually try and hide the joke. Like when the dudes are all loading the guns, like the guns are like kind of off frame, so you can't really see already that they're toys. Like I never really kind of noticed that until I was rewatching it and I was paying a bit more attention. I'm like, that's the thing about this movie, is you can make fun of it, but in terms of putting the scenes together and constructing jokes and constructing everything, it's put together well, man. Like it's not a badly shot or badly structured film. Like you can't hate on it for that.
I mean, I think it works in the sense that, like, there's kind of cause and effect, and like, the decisions that these characters make, they all kind of intertwine, and it all kind of culminates in them being in this big mess towards the end. So these early stages, I guess, are just about setting up these rivalries. So obviously Guile's got his rivalry with Bison. Ken and Ryu have got their rivalry with Sagat and Vega. Which you get, like, there's, once they've been uncovered as like scam artists, they're put into like a cage fight with Vega, and like, Ryu has to fight him, but there's the big long intro where he comes in with like his girls who've got like his mask and his claw and everything.
I love that scene too. It's so well, it's just so hilariously put together.
Yeah, I mean, Vega looks cool as fuck. Like they've obviously they've picked a serious like bodybuilder fighter type guy for it, and I just love how Ryu, it's like a woman comes up to him and rips his shirt off, and like it just flashes to the crowd, and there's this like one girl there who's got like a sign saying "I love Vega," and she just throws it away.
She goes, gives it to someone else.
Yeah, I just see Vega getting really pissed off about it.
He pulls a face like,
yeah, I can't believe this happened.
Yeah. Well, I'd say Vega's probably the most well cast to video game like character in that whole movie. Like that dude is pretty much spot on to like the Vega character, right? Like a pretty boy, with the physique, and even the outfit was like pretty much spot on. Yeah,
I would say so. He actually does the moves fairly well.
Yeah,
the rolling like punch with the claw and all that sort of thing. So yeah, he's probably the closest. The guy they got to play Honda looks quite good as well, just because he's massive.
Oh, but yeah, we're forgetting Zangief, but we'll get to that soon enough. But yeah, Zangief is probably the most perfectly cast thing in that whole film. I think just that character.
But yeah, like we were saying, the whole fight between Vega and Ryu is just a complete tease, and it doesn't go anywhere because just as they're about to start, like Guile just crashes through the fucking wall in a tank.
Yeah.
Well, I meant to say as well, there's a great moment where Sagat is talking to them, and they're like, "Oh, you should be running a club, like an underground fighting club like this. Don't you know there's a curfew?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Nobody tells me anything." And then there's a fucking like chopper or something. Yeah, and it's just you hear the loudspeaker going like, "This is a reminder that there's a curfew at 7 p.m."
Yeah, there's a curfew at Shadaloo City, like straight away. It's like a Naked Gun joke or something, man. It's like the time, and everyone kind of looks around the room, and there's that pause, like while the joke sets in. It's literally like out of Naked Gun. Like it's so stupid.
Do you know what it says as well after it? It's like, violators will be shot on sight. Like, holy shit, man, that's a serious curfew.
Yeah, they're not messing around. Shit.
But yeah, so what is it?
I actually noticed too last time I watched that scene, like again, like when Ken and Ryu are getting backed up into a corner and they're about to get shot by the toy guns, behind them in that room is like a giant sort of gold statue thing of like a Buddha, like reclining, which is the same thing from Sagat's level in Street Fighter 2. Like if you look at that scene, there's like this gold statue doing that. You know, on his level in the game, it's like a giant statue in the background. The exact same thing, and I never picked up on that until I watched it the other night. I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
that is a neat little touch. Actually, I like that.
Yeah,
there's little touches all through it, like Bison, where he's sitting there drinking a cocktail later on. Like his cocktail stirrer has got the skull and wings emblem on the top of it, just like tiny little
like
things
Shadaloo
like
logo or something.
Yeah, well, like the sort of the emblem of the Bison Troopers. It's like and it's on his hat as well. It's just like a skull with wings coming out of it, and like
he does it on his straws, does he?
Yeah,
got to keep it on brand even when he has cocktails.
100%, 100%. That guy commits.
Yeah,
and
I think he has different colored hats for each outfit too. He's just got like a rack of different colored hats because it's got to match whatever he's wearing at the time. Can't be clashing, you know what I mean, with his ensemble.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like even when he's relaxing in his own room, like he still wears his military like hat. He never takes it off.
Yeah, never takes the hat off. Yeah,
he's general first and a man second. It's just Raul Julia is just an absolute joy to watch in like every scene he's in. He's in a movie which is clearly like a lot of slapstick and a lot of like campy action, like he is kind of taking it seriously. He's like a really like a proper actor as he approaches it, and he delivers these big epic monologues about like the Pax Bisonica, and he's really into it. It's great. Great fun to watch him.
I'm jumping ahead, but yeah, the best speech is that bit at the end when he's like addressing the hostages and saying like, you'll be killed by a wild beast, and he's just giving this like insanely like over the top fucking speech, man, which is like incredible. And it's the energy in that is just it's not on par with every other actor in this film. He's just taken it to the next level, I think. Yeah,
he's so everything is really grandiose. Like he's like a Shakespearean villain put into this crazy campy action movie. Like it's just...
I honestly still wonder, like, is he in on it, or is he just doing like the best possible job he can do? Like, did he realize that it was kind of like a bit of a stupid video game film, or did the dude just go in there like a total pro and just give it his all? Like, I don't know. Like, what was the go there?
I mean, I think it's a bit of both. I think like he must have been savvy enough to realize like this is clearly not a serious film like all the other movies I've done. And I can tell by the way, these scenes are playing out, but I'm going to give it my all. And as I understand it, he did this movie because his kids were huge fans of the video games.
Yeah.
And he thought, that would be quite cool if I can say like, my dad's been in Street Fighter, the movie. And he kind of did it for them. He probably wouldn't have had much interest in it otherwise. And like, I guess being the professional that he is, he just, he gave it his all. Despite the fact that he was clearly extremely sick while he was doing this. If you compare him to like when he was in the Addams Family or something.
I was going to say, just the face. You can notice the face quite cool in some scenes.
He must be like 50 pounds lighter easily. And yeah, obviously he died not long after this film was completed, and it was his final movie. So kind of a sad way to go out that it wasn't some big Oscar-winning epic, but at the same time, man, he'll always be remembered. You know?
Yeah, dude. I think like people probably remember him more for that now. You know what I mean? And the fact that it was released around the time of his death, and like, yeah, like you look back on it kind of fondly. Like it's a pretty good send off. You know, and he's definitely stuck around. That character's survived that test of time, man.
Well, I think everyone's got like that fond like feeling towards his portrayal of the character, where it's like, yeah, this is a guy laboring in a crappy movie, but just giving it his all and doing his best, and man, you can't help but respect that. And I think that's what most people see it as. So it's like fair enough. You can't fault him there.
No.
So I mean, because we were jumping ahead a little bit there, but like, yeah, the result is when Guile bursts in, they're all arrested. Like Sagat, Vega, Ryu, and Ken, they're all kind of taken off to prison, and so that's them kind of dumped into the same place together. The problem Guile has is that they still don't know where Bison's base of operation is. Yeah, because they weren't able to trace his call all the way back there, so they still don't know.
Yeah, they lost him on the telephone news conference thing too quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then Guile has the genius idea. Genius, I tell you. Where he's like, wait a minute, Sagat is his biggest arms supplier. Maybe he knows where he is.
And again, it just happens to be happening outside just as he, starts talking about it.
Yeah, totally. He looks out the window and then, there's a big fight going on. And, it's like, cool, maybe we can use Ryu and Ken to infiltrate his organization. So I wonder what will come from that. So there's that, and then I think the third strand of this whole story is Chun-Li, who's working with Honda and Balrog, who are like posing as a news crew, and they're reporting on the war officially, but she's out to get Bison as well, because you find out that he killed her parents. And she's out to take revenge on him.
Which I think was from the video game too. I think that was a backstory in the game, right? Was that Bison was responsible for the death of her parent? Or at least her dad, I think, maybe?
I don't really remember much of anyone's backstory in the game. It's kind of like they were all just there to fight each other. But yeah, you could well be right.
I think that was faithful to the video game too, yeah. Like the original, I don't know what they're doing now with all the new storylines, but yeah.
So... yeah, I'm trying to think how this plays out. So the Ryu and Ken, I think they stage an escape from prison. They're able to get keys, I think, to get out. And they end up
set up, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And they end up freeing Balrog and they end up freeing
Sagat and Vega.
Yeah, Sagat and Vega. And Guile tries to stop them, and I think it's Ryu. Ken, who guns him down. Like, oh shit, Guile's dead, man. I don't think there was too many people who thought like, oh shit, he really is gone. Like the biggest star of the movie dead.
I mean, maybe when you're a kid, you might be sort of thrown off for a second, but yeah, it's kind of set up because he just literally recruits them like the scene before. It would have had more impact if it was just handled a bit differently. But yeah, there's no like threat that Jean Claude's not coming back.
Yeah, I mean, he was, because I guess at that point in his career, he was pretty hot in Hollywood. Like, he'd had a string of hits in the early 80s. I think he'd just done Universal Soldier, so...
that was his peak for sure, at that period, yeah.
But yeah, I actually think this movie kind of derailed him.
Yeah, I think if you look at everything after that, it's sort of slowly downhill from there, isn't it? Like, this was what, like 94, 95, and yeah, he was at that apex, and everything after this, man, was just slowly crashing.
I think he did Time Cop around about the same time, which I think was fairly successful. He did this, and then I think it coincided with like a lot of like problems with cocaine and stuff. And man, his career just absolutely went down the tubes in the 90s, and it's a real shame. Like, it really is. Apparently, he was off his face most of the time when he was doing this film.
Yeah, it's hearsay, but I knew someone who knew someone who claimed they worked on whatever one of the recent Universal Soldier films was, because I know they've made like a bunch of sequels recently, but it was one in like the early 2000s, and they filmed it in Europe somewhere in like Eastern Europe, and apparently the whole that whole ensemble and his entourage were just like on blow the whole time. They just never saw them, and like they'd come out to shoot scenes and all that and stuff. But yeah, I don't want to tell stories about it because I'm probably misremembering it. But yeah, the dude had like a massive, pretty huge habit from what you hear about him, which is kind of sad because he's a fit dude, man. Like even in this, like he's in pretty damn good shape. Like he's legit.
Oh physically. Yeah. Like he still had that that kind of martial arts physique from back in the day, and you know, wherever he was at, kind of mentally, like physically, he's definitely looking awesome. And it's.
But did you notice too? Actually, he has like a weird thing on his head in this movie. I only noticed it watching it recently again too. If you look on his forehead, he's got like this, like a red mark, like on the top of his head, like he's been kicked there, or it's like a bruise that they're trying to cover up with bad foundation. Did you ever notice that?
It's in pretty much all of his movies. If you look at Universal Soldier, he's got it. Yeah, it's just kind of a lump on his forehead.
Wow, I've seriously never noticed it until I watched Street Fighter the night.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you don't see it, and then you just happen to notice it one time, and then you can't unsee it.
Right.
And I think it is a result of like a kickboxing injury or something. I think it's like a hematoma. I'm sure I remember him doing an interview about it once, and he's like, "Yeah, it's just it's not like dangerous or anything. It's just I got injured once, and that's kind of what happened."
Yeah, maybe they just cover it up with makeup most of the time, so you can't notice it. But there's some shots in Street Fighter where it's like, damn, like that thing's sticking out pretty bad, man.
Yeah, it's like
it's got a bit of shiner. Yeah,
it's like surely you could have done something about it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear as well. Like I could be wrong about this, but I think him and Kylie Minogue got very friendly on the set of this film.
I hope that's true. I'd love to think that was true. That would be awesome.
There was there was a lot of because I did a little bit of reading about it. The behind the scenes stuff is incredible on how this movie got made. It's like the actors were supposed to get something like 3 months of martial arts training beforehand. They didn't. Like I think the stunt coordinator finally showed up like 2 weeks beforehand, and they had almost no time to prepare. That's why most of them, apart from the guys who clearly have martial arts skills anyway. A couple of them, like most of them, just look fucking useless because they're just like normal people.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple, like it's just good camera work all of the time. When there's any sort of decent fight scenes and stuff, it's really just sort of camera angles. Like it's nothing impressive. And even the stuff with Jean Claude and Raul Julia is sort of pretty loose. Like it's not a fantastic fight scene,
No, I mean you've got like a 50-year-old man who's dying of cancer versus like I don't know 30-year-old Jean Claude Van Damme martial arts expert. It looks pretty one-sided like at the best of times.
And there's the amount of jump cuts. There's that fight scene. Sort of jump ahead again, but the fight scene at the end when they're on that floating sort of carriage thing or whatever, and the amount of jump cuts in that, man. If you go through that and watch each cut, that whole fight scene is like nonsensical. Like the way they keep moving around and taking hits, it's so disjointed, and like there's just no flow to any of it. It just feels really weird and kind of sloppily thrown together. Like it's just random shots put together to look like a fight scene.
Yeah, I think probably because Raul was probably moving quite slowly, and so they have to jump cut it to try and make it a bit more kinetic and fast paced. Particularly, like you say, they both fall into like that big floating desk thing. And it's a very restricted area to try and move around and fight in. So there's not much you can do in something like that, like something so small. And I think they had to like jump cut it all over the place just to try and give it a bit of momentum, But it is a strange
it's got momentum. Yeah, but it just sort of goes nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. The only fight that's actually half decent is Vega versus Ryu.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And also, the Ken and Sagat thing's not too bad. Like their whole little fight is pretty cool too. Plus 800 and Zangief. I mean, come on, you gotta give that some love too.
Yeah,
the Godzilla fight.
Yeah. Oh man.
And of course, it's like the Japanese soldiers who happen to find that on the security footage. Like
it's the fact that you hear the Godzilla roar when they're fighting. It's like, where's that even coming from?
Yeah, they're stomping on like the little model of what is it, Bisonopolis or whatever it is.
Oh man, it's like I said. I think they knew exactly what they were doing when they made this film. They just said like, we're gonna have fun with it, and that's what they did. But yeah, I know that actor, the Japanese actor that's in that scene. who's kind of watching them on the security camera. Like, that was the director's choice, I think, to be the main character. I think they wanted him to play Ryu, and he would have been like the focus of it. But they felt like, well, his English wasn't great, and he wasn't particularly well known in the West. So they're like, no, we need someone more bankable, and so it focused more on Van Damme.
I mean, that dude has that scene when he can't even really string the sentence together. I think when he has to ask Guile about, he says something like, one man in a boat against all of Shadowloo, and it's just like, it sounds like he's reading every word for the first time.
Yeah, and you can tell, like, yeah, that's the guy, yeah. It's clearly like, okay, he has to really stop and think about what his next sentence needs to be, and it's like maybe he didn't even understand any English, and he was just learning it like verbatim. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then it's like the fact.
Trivia. I mean, yeah.
But it's like, he speaks, and then Van Damme speaks, and he's really like, even by his standards, he's got a really heavy accent in this, and he's quite like stuttery and halting. And
there's one line of dialogue, like when he shouts, his dialogue is just really awkward. Like there's a bit at the end when he says something to Ryan and Ken, he's like, "Get the hostages out," and he just delivers it in this really odd way. It's like we took 25 takes, and that was the best one. It's like, man, just can we get that again?
Yeah, I think it's the bit where he goes like, "Luckily, Bison has driven me insane."
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. Driven me crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that whole speech about, he says to that like the corporate guy that comes out, he's just like, "You've lost your balls," or something like this.
Yeah. Have you lost your mind? No, you've lost your balls.
You've lost.
It's like
your
a proper kind of moment.
What a fucking burn, man! Like next level.
Yeah, he just does not give a shit. That man, love it.
Yeah. Court martial for sure, though, when he gets back from that. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it looks like Kyle, I keep calling him Kyle. Guile has been gunned down by Ken while they escaped. And so he's been taken off to the morgue, and that's when Chun-Li kind of sneaks in because she wants to. I think she'd planted a tracking device on the truck as it escaped, but for some reason the tracker leads her to the morgue. I never really understood that, but there's like another device set up there, so it's almost like, I don't know, maybe Guile planted it to make her go there. It's really weird.
Yeah, that actually makes no sense because no one could have possibly known that she plants the tracking device on the truck. But then, somehow they get the tracking device off the truck and it ends up in the morgue. Yeah. Plus, you notice how she just kind of throws it on? It's just kind of sitting in this like very precarious position. Like it's not like stuck down or magnetic. It's like a little lapel mic.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, it's like a little piece of rolled up tarpaulin on the side of it, and it's just it's like rested in the crook of that. It's like the next thing that goes over a bump, that thing's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. Or it takes a corner at speed, which it will probably be doing as it's an escape vehicle. But
yeah. You'd think it wouldn't be that hard to track something like that either. It's like, okay, it's a truck full of prisoners. Like, I'm pretty sure we could just get the local police on this and they'll be able to follow it.
Once it gets out of the building, man, they just give up. There's no they're just, as soon as it's around the corner, it's gone. We can't get it now.
Yeah, throw their hands up in the air. It's like, nah, well, what can we do, eh?
What can we do? It's gone. It's got through the gate. That's it. Yeah.
I just love as well when Chun-Li sneaks into the morgue, like, Guile is lying under a sheet, and like, how long has he been waiting there? Like, he's just waiting for her to show up.
Yeah, he's like, well, she's going to turn up eventually, so
just like hanging out, waiting, and eventually he waits until she's there, and then he sits up, and it's like, oh shit, he's alive! Wow, it's all blood packs and squibs and stuff, and you find out obviously, you kind of think there's a lot of ways that could have gone wrong as well. Like, what if one of the other prisoners had shot him, or they decided to run him over when he was lying on the ground just to make sure he was dead, Yeah,
well, what if like Ryu and Ken got like fucked up by some of the other prisoners who weren't in on it or something, or someone stabbed him in the back, man? Yeah, it's a lot of factors in that jailbreak. Very elaborate little ploy.
But either way, wouldn't you know, everything worked out perfectly. And so Ryu and Ken have now been like taken into Sagat's confidence. Like, he trusts them now because they helped to break him out of prison. And they all go to like this is just an incredible scene as well. They go to a thieves market almost. That's what they call it anyway. They refer to it as the thieves market, and they've literally got cruise missiles for sale. They're just hanging up there on the wall, and you can buy them. There's like a chopper that was used to evacuate the embassy in Saigon. The guy's even talking about it, like, oh, it's only used once to evacuate Saigon. Just ridiculous stuff like that. And that's where Bison is, and he meets with Sagat to broker another arms deal, I think. So everyone's there who they're trying to get a hold of.
And I never understand too. This is in the same film where they say they have no idea where Bison is, and it's just like through no word of mouth, they could never find out that there was this gigantic sort of circus weapons market thing happening in the middle of the night. Do you know what I mean? Which you could probably spot from space because of all the action that's going on. But somehow no one knew that this thing was happening. And Chun-Li knows where he is. She doesn't bother to tell Guile or the Allied Nations or whatever where he is.
Yeah, because it's a really strange meeting she has with Guile. It's almost like that scene's just there to prove that he's alive, because then he's like, "Now, Chun-Li, don't you go chasing after Bison by yourself." And she's like, "Yeah, fuck off." And then she just leaves. And then so obviously immediately she goes after him again. And I guess she found his tracker.
She found out where it is though. Yeah, was there? Is it worded? Like, do they have a scene where they figure out that that's the thing that's happening? Because they just turn up at the scene, don't they? And
they're just there.
Yeah, it's never explained.
So yeah, I mean, there's kind of a lot in this movie, I guess, that just happens. Like, they're there. Nobody thinks it's unusual that she's there, and Sagat's there, and Honda's there. And so they're doing like a circus act thing to act as cover, because I guess that's the thing that goes on when you're doing arms deals. Like, you just watch women dancing and stuff. Like, fuck it, why not?
Yeah, just before you start selling weapons of mass destruction, see some titties before you get into it. Yeah.
So Sagat's there to sell weapons. Bison wants to pay using Bison dollars, which I love this guy, because Sagat's saying to him, "What the fuck? These aren't worth anything. They're just made up currency." And he's like, "On the contrary, they'll be worth 5 British pounds
when I kidnap their queen."
Yeah. It's like the guy's got no fucking restrictions on him. He's just like, "Yeah, I'm going to kidnap the Queen of England. Why not?"
I mean, you got to give it to him. He's got a game plan. He's got the whole utopian city planned out. He's got he's even gone down to the exchange rate for his dollar. Like, I mean, the dude's got a vision. You got to give him credit, man.
So so five Bison dollars to the pound seems reasonable, I would say.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, but he's already, like, theoretically, he's already going to have $20 billion from this hostage trade that he's got going on. So, man, this guy just keeps taking and taking. There's no limits to it. And so I'm trying to think how this plays out. Like, Sagat's pissed at him, so the two sides kind of end up drawing their guns on each other. And meanwhile, Ken and Ryu just kind of walk into the middle of it. I think they run into Chun-Li and the others, don't they?
Yeah. Well, they get sort of. I think Ken chases after Chun-Li because she kind of persuades him with her female ways, and then. Yeah, basically told, like, stay the hell out of our way. We're gonna take care of this and blow them up. Which, yeah, I mean, the smart thing to do would just to be to put a bomb in the tent, not to advertise that you're going to do it on a television. But anyway, yeah. So they sort of come back like a couple of idiots in the middle of this Mexican standoff between the two factions,
and they don't notice, like, until they're right in the middle, that there's like dozens of men with guns pointed at each other. They just keep walking and talking until they get right into the middle.
I think it has like that. There's like the sound of guns loading. Like, that's like the giveaway. Like, they kind of walk in, you hear that like noise, and they look around, and because everyone was waiting till they came in to load their weapons, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's that weird thing in movies, isn't it, where every time you kind of move a gun slightly, it just makes clicking sounds. Like, just to really emphasize this is a gun that has moving parts in it, and it's
that's what all guns do, though, isn't it? Don't guns do that in real life? If you just move it, it goes like that.
Yeah. It's like, I just tilted it slightly. What the fuck's just happened? Why is it clicking?
Every time.
Yeah, it's funny as well that Chun-Li caught Ken's eye. Like, you'd think she would want to stay incognito and just like not have anyone notice her, but yeah.
I
It's
think
almost
she
like
did that. No, I think she's doing that to get him out of the way. I think that was like done on purpose. Do you know what I mean?
right, yeah.
I
Okay, so
think, yeah. Otherwise, there's really no reason she would do it. It's stupid. She thinks she would just turn away and be like, "Oh, I don't want this guy to recognize me." But I think she does it to get the two of them out of the sort of the room. Yeah,
right, okay. But then they just ignore it and go right back in anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah.
genius moves, chaps.
Yeah, it plays out well. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get that great moment where she's on she's on TV talking to them live, somehow
Yeah.
broadcasting in there
Who's
to
the
them.
cameraman during that is what I've always wondered. It's like the camera pans and zooms out. So they must have like paid a second person to operate the camera.
Yeah, you literally get multiple shots of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
like
then there's the shot of the truck and everything. Yeah, like you get a cutaway and everything.
Yeah, so it's like, god damn, they took the time to like properly get directors in and editors and stuff while they're doing this live. Yeah,
there's good
really
lighting and everything, man. Yeah.
And so you've got this truck that's barreling towards them, like crashing through stalls and stuff, coming right for their tent. And you get that great line from Zangief where he's like, "Quick, change the channel,"
which is again like a Naked Gun like kind of joke, right? Like it has no place in this kind of movie, but it's so funny and memorable. And they all do that slow look, like, is this dude for real? Like everyone stops and looks at him.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's such a dumb, obvious joke, but the way he delivers it is just great. Like the guy really sells it.
Yeah, that actor too. I didn't realize was the same dude who played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, I did know that.
He plays. I don't know if I feel like we've talked about this. I have deja vu about this, but he plays Christopher Walken's son in Batman Returns with Chip. I was like, "Go, Dad, save yourself." That guy.
Oh, really?
It's the same dude.
I did not know that.
You look up photos of him. Just look up Chip from Batman Returns, and it's like literally Christopher Walken's character. I can't remember his name in that Christopher Walken's character, but it's that character with that same hair. And all I can see is Zangief with this really weird hair every time I look at the photo, because I always just associate that actor with Zangief. Yeah.
Right, yeah, because his name's Max Shrek or something.
That's it, yeah, Shrek, yeah. So Chip is his son in that, yeah, Chip.
Right, because I imagine, he wouldn't have a beard like he does in Street Fighter. So
he looks completely different. That's why you don't make the connection, but then you'll see it. You go, yep, that's the same dude. Yeah, just doesn't have the mohawk. Yeah,
he's a big dude though. I don't know if he's like an ex-football player.
He's a wrestler.
Or something.
Yeah,
wrestler,
he's like a wrestler
right?
Or something. Yeah.
But yeah, so you you get that great line from him, and so they evacuate the tent just before the thing impacts and blows up, and it's kind of a weird one because it's implied like Ken and Ryu kind of betray Chun-Li and the others to gain,
but they don't. Yeah.
Gain his trust. Yeah, because like the thing still happens and the truck still comes in, and if she hadn't warned them by like gloating on that video, it would have just killed them all, and she would have achieved her mission.
Yeah. Just hey, like the truck's a great idea. Just roll the truck into the tent and blow them up. Or better yet, put the bomb in the tent during your elaborate, Cirque du Soleil show that you're putting on, where everyone's eyes are averted. You know what I mean? Like, put a fucking bomb under Bison's chair. Like, there's so many options, but they go for the theatrical one, which, doesn't quite work, does it?
Yeah, and so it just you don't even see it happening, but it's just kind of implied, or it's almost stated to you, like, okay, Chun-Li and Balrog and Honda were all captured after this because they never thought to just leave when all this was going on. They could have gone to like, it's almost like they were just stood there watching all this happen. It's like you could have just run away by that point, or you could have broadcast this little thing from like 10 miles away or something. You didn't have to be there.
Yeah.
But never mind. Yeah, you get like a satellite image that I think just tells you like, oh yeah, so they were all captured, and they're brought to Bison's lair.
With corrugated iron, which I noticed for the first time again watching this, like the walls, because I think a lot of this movie was shot in Australia, and or parts of it was shot in Australia, and then I guarantee those scenes were shot in Australia because it has corrugated iron on the walls, and there's no other reason you would need corrugated iron unless it was just a cheap, readily available resource and you're in Australia.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough, man. I kind of like his lair because it's built underneath like an ancient temple, and so it's got bits of it that are like ultra modern concrete and stuff, but then another bit that will be like a crumbling wall that's just held up with like big steel braces and stuff, and then another bit that looks like a medieval castle. Like it's just all bits and pieces of everything kind of thrown together, and it's just kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, I think like in the main chamber thing there, like you said, like half of it is like there's like a temple wall or something, right? With all these old like bricks and stuff.
Yeah, because there's a scene later where Guile takes cover beside it and he's shooting at people, but he takes cover on the wrong side of the wall. So like he's on the side where people are shooting at him. But I think just being near it kind of stops him from getting hit. I don't know.
He's got the plot armor too. Plus the way he holds his machine gun, clearly well trained in firearms at that point. I think he rested on his forearm at one point to reduce the recoil.
Yeah,
putting a red hot barrel on your skin, that's how you handle weapons, right?
It's just it's a really strange way to hold it. It's like that cannot be good for aiming, because it'll have a stock guard on it, so I guess you're meant to hold it with your actual hand rather than resting it on your arm while you fire. But it doesn't look as cool, so what can you do?
Yeah. That's the way Jean Claude wanted to hold the gun that day, so that's what happened.
Yeah, you just imagine like in between lines, he was just like, it's like, this is the way I'm doing the scene. Okay, Jean Claude, just don't kill anyone.
Yeah, just don't kick me, Jean Claude.
Yeah, totally. So I think this is what gains the trust of Bison. He now trusts the two spies like Ken and Ryu because they've delivered.
Guests. Yeah, he calls them honored guests at one point. Yeah.
So they're going to get taken away. They get given uniforms and stuff. Like they're just in the club now. Zangief's looking after them, and Balrog and Honda are taken away to be interrogated and tortured. And that's where you get the scene where Honda's just getting whipped and stuff constantly, and he just doesn't give a shit. And it's funny because like it has to emphasize the fact that he's Samoan constantly, because you get like a kind of Hawaiian twang every time he gets hit.
Like the luau music or whatever it is. Yeah.
The guy hitting him as well, I don't know if you ever knew this, but his name is Joe Bugner, and he's like a boxer.
Yeah.
And he was quite successful in his day, and it's just such a weird thing that he's in this movie because he's not an actor really. I don't know why the fuck he's there.
Maybe he was like a stunt coordinator or something. Because I know it's funny you say that, because at the start of the film, when they're in Sagat's little room, there's the dude at the front, one of like Sagat's henchmen is Benny the Jet. That he's like a kickboxer who used to be in all these old Jackie Chan films, and he's in this one scene in that one room, and then he just never shows up again. Do you know what I mean? But that dude is like a legit badass motherfucker. Like Jackie Chan was saying when he used to fight him in his prime that like he reckons if it went, toe to toe, Benny would beat the crap out of him. He'd lose to this guy. So that's like a serious fighter. But all they use him in is like one scene. So all I could guess is it's like a stunt thing, or maybe it's just someone knew them and they got him on the set. I don't know. Yeah,
it does. It has the kind of feel, this movie, of like these guys just showed up to see what was going on that day, and they're like, "Yeah, you want to be in the film? Yeah, fuck it, why not?" And then they just put them in a scene, like, "Yeah, whatever, why not?"
Is the boxer guy Aussie? Because he has a weird accent. I can't tell what his accent's supposed to be. Your neck's yank, and it kind of sounds Aussie, but it's like I don't know what or maybe it's British. I don't know, like he's sort of weird Cockney accent. Yeah,
he is actually British and Australian.
He is. Yeah, okay,
yeah. He's got like dual citizenship. Apparently, he was born in Hungary, so really random.
I just love the shot of him when he goes to his little like what do you call it, like room that's got all these little torture tools, and he just goes around like picking up things of what he wants to use next.
Yeah, he actually fought Muhammad Ali.
Wow,
I knew he was pretty successful. Yeah, he fought for the World Heavyweight Championship and lost on points. So fucking hell, if you can go the distance with Muhammad Ali, you're doing all right. Like,
wow. You know what they've probably done? Do you reckon it's that meta, or it's that clever where they've had him in the scene with Balrog, because it's like Balrog's a boxer and then the guy torturing him's like a boxer? Do you reckon they were going for that, or is that reading too deep into it?
I think you're probably crediting them with too much intelligence there.
Yeah. I think we are, yeah.
I think it was just Joe Bugner's available. Do you want to use them? Fuck it, yeah, why not?
We need a torture person for one day. Can you come in and hit this Samoan actor over the back with a whip? He's like,
you get to cane people repeatedly. He's
like, I'm in. Where do I start?
Yeah, I'll do it for free. But it's like, it kind of ties into what I was saying to you earlier, where it's like, I really don't understand what the ethnicity of Shadowluians is meant to be, because he gives this line to Honda where he's like, "This is how we treat foreigners in Shadowloo," and starts whipping them. It's like, wait a minute, you're clearly not East Asian. how are you not a foreigner? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't remember that line. He says that in the torture scene.
Yeah, he's like, this is
I
how we
remember
treat foreigners in Shadaloo, and then he just starts hitting them with the cane.
Damn.
Just really random.
I know it has that really bad. It's just something about it's the most like 90s dialogue where he says something like, "Oh, you know, my mind's in one place, my body's in another." And Barrow's like, "Next time your mind goes somewhere, get to bring back pizza." And that is just the most like 90s line I've ever heard. You know, it's terrible, but something about it is so 90s.
Yeah, it's almost like that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles period. Just make a pizza joke. Why not?
yeah. Everyone loves pizza. Everyone back then just loved pizza. Well, we did though. I mean, it was pretty awesome. Can't lie, but yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's just I love that kind of ridiculous like bravado that you used to get in these older movies, where like these people are clearly in horrific situations, and like if you were really there, you'd be bricking it, but they're just like, fuck it, just joking around, like no big deal. You know?
Yeah, I guess they read the room, or like they played it to the crowd, which was kids. Like no one really wants to go in and have a scary sort of frightening film. But I will say, talking about the neck snapping again at the start of the movie, I found that terrifying, man. When I was a kid, when Bison's like snapping all the dudes' necks, like you were mentioning before, like as a kid, I was like, this is fucking scary. This dude's a badass, you know?
Yeah,
it's a good way. They build him up as a villain. Like it's not like like when the fight comes, you're kind of like, this is going to be a good fight because this dude's a badass. So it's handled pretty well.
I think so. Yeah, it's a good way of introducing him. The fact that he just randomly snaps people's necks because like it's just how he passes the time.
Yeah, we totally skipped over one of his best lines, which never gets enough credit, which is the bit when he thinks Guile's dead and he has that speech about like, I would have faced him in the purity of unarmed combat, then I would snap his spine or something like this.
Yeah, you get Sagat just goes, "That was beautiful." No, sorry, Zangief. Yeah,
that was beautiful. But just the pause, the comedic pause before he's like, "Then I would snap his spine." It's like, it's perfect.
DJ there is DJ, great as well.
Great news, General. He's like, on the country, I'm on. Okay.
Yeah. He's just constantly trying to read Bison. It's like whatever he thinks he wants to hear, he'll just say it,
What a weird casting choice for DJ too, that dude. He's just that weird character actor who's in like these really small bit parts out of like every 80s and 90s movie, that guy.
Yeah.
He's in RoboCop 2, right? Wasn't he in RoboCop 2? I think it's I'm thinking he was in RoboCop.
Let me just check actually.
Yeah, check his IMDb.
DJ.
I feel like
Miguel
he was one of like
Nunez.
Yeah, so, I know he was in Friday 13th.
He was in Lethal Weapon 3.
Lethal Weapon 3.
I think it's just a bit part in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just in every film. Like you just always see him as like a side character.
He was in The Joy of Sex back in 1984. Jock number 2.
Yeah.
He played a thug in Lethal Weapon. So he's been in 2 Lethal Weapon movies. Damn. Yeah, I can't really find much of significance that he was in. Just little bit parts here and there. Yeah. Good actor though. Well, DJ's a fun character. He's obviously there for a bit of total comic relief.
He's like an ex-Microsoft engineer or something. There's like a joke about that. He's like, I should have stayed at Microsoft.
Yeah. I love the scenes with Dal Zim. Because
so miscast.
While all this nonsense is going on, he's in the middle of like turning Charlie into Blanka.
Carlos.
Yeah, Carlos. Yeah.
Carlos.
And so he's getting like injected with DNA mutagens. That's what they call them. They're just in a big like green bottle, and so it's making him bigger and stronger and turning him into a green sort of Hulk monster. But he's also getting his mind reprogrammed, and so the way they do that is just showing him like images of war and all kinds of like horrible stuff that like. I don't know how it would like turn you into a programmable soldier. It would just surely make you go mad, but like that's what they show him.
I kind of like that. I think it's kind of cool though. Like it's like very like I don't want to reference Clockwork Orange, but because that's like an insult to compare it. But yeah, it's like a cool sort of Clockwork Orange thing where it's like the dude's strapped down into it. And again, like it's a pretty cool way to make it seem realistic or somewhat believable of how he's been turned into a monster. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's it addresses that fact. It's like, okay, we're gonna like turn his body into this killing machine. Now we need to like pervert his mind as well. But then it gets to like 50%, and then he's like, oh, I need to try and stop this, and so he reprograms it so it's putting like good imagery to him, and it's just like puppies and stuff, like, you know. And that just somehow makes you like 50% evil, 50% good, you know.
No,
like,
that's the thing. It's 49% good, I think, or no, whatever it is like there's 1% left or something. Where so it's like you could go either way. Like that's the thing, but they never build it because it gets blown up 5 minutes later. But
damn, that's the duality of man right there on screen.
It's like they're setting it up like as if it's going to be a thing. Like he's half monster, he's half human, but there's the little bit left where he can decide what's going to happen. But they just, it goes nowhere because he gets blown up when the whole base explodes.
Yeah, they really should have had a scene where it's like he escapes the lab just as it blows up, and so you see him running off into the jungle or something, you know. And there's all kinds of grounds for a sequel there, but it's like, I think it's just a casualty of like having a movie with so many characters in it. You're just not going to be able to give them all a good arc. Like you got guys like T-Hawk, who I had no fucking idea that was meant to be T-Hawk until like the last 5 minutes of the movie, where he puts on like a bandana.
I think he references, he calls him T-Hawk once. There's like one scene where he's like, T-Hawk! He shouts out to him, and that's the only time you know it's T-Hawk.
Yeah.
And I don't even call I don't think he ever calls Kamino Cammy directly, right? I don't think it's everything goes, Cammy, come over here. Like it just never comes up.
No, I don't think it's almost like she never even gets named. She's just kind of there. Like assistant woman number 1. And it's Kylie Minogue, man. You've got to give her a bit more than that, you know?
Yeah. I rate it though. I think it's a good performance. I think it's pretty good. Like it's like, I mean, who else were we going to cast in the 90s to play it? Like, you know, she's pretty popular, especially in Australia, because she was like a big thing at the time. So
she would have been fresh off Neighbours or something, I would imagine, back then.
Yeah.
And it's
funny. Does the accent pretty well. She does the accent all right, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because it's like she didn't age. You know, it's like she did this, and you know, you look at her like 10, 15 years later, and she was basically exactly the same. It's really uncanny. But yeah, so you know, you've got all this going on. So yeah, you've got the duality of man there in in Blanka, and DJ and sorry, Balrog and Honda are getting tortured. There's so many characters. I'm trying to keep track of them all. And that's when Chun-Li gets taken to Bison's quarters.
And Ken and Raul are still there too, because they're struggling with the morality of what they should be doing. Because, you know, they're like, do we help the good guys, or do we sort of... Because they get signed up with Shadowloo technically at that point.
Yes, because they've kind of earned their place. So they could...
They could really great scene with Zangief sort of giving them the tour of the base, and that whole thing is pretty funny too.
Yeah, well, I think
Soviet music in the background.
Yeah, totally. And he's obviously under the impression that he's on the good side. Yeah, you know, he's like, oh, this is where we fight against imperialism and the
tyranny of the United Nations or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's totally like we're fighting for freedom. It's like, no, you're not, mate. It just doesn't get it.
He's a tragic villain, Zangief, isn't he?
He really is. Yeah, he redeems himself though, so he's got a real arc.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just love as well the announcer voice that keeps appearing in Bisonopolis.
Yeah,
where it's like it'll say things like, "Oh, just a friendly reminder to Bison troopers, you know, your healthcare priorities are your own concern."
When everyone's dying, it's this sudden announcement, like just a reminder that your healthcare. Yeah, it's like, again, it's a Naked Gun joke, man. It's like out of a different comedy film, that type of dialogue.
Yeah, it's so it's so tongue in cheek. It's amazing.
Plus, it talking about the Blanka thing, or Carlos, I should say, right? Every time it goes up 1%, the computer voice announces it. It goes like, you know, muscle mass increased by 59%, like every single percent. So they sat is that a computer voice, or did they sit a lady down to record like every single percentage? You know what I mean?
I just imagine, because it does some really specific stuff later on. It's like hostage pit opening, stand back, please.
Opening to main chamber and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, did they? Yeah, they had to get some voice actress in, like in Bisonopolis, and be like, right, we need to say all this stuff for our computer system. Like, oh, really? This sounds really sinister.
I imagine this. Yeah, she's in like a booth, and I just imagine Bison out front in like that little glass room with like headphones on, saying, "Say it again, say it like this," you know, just directing her through the dialogue.
I just love, when he's looking over his model of Bisonopolis, and he's like talking about how the food court needs to be bigger.
Yeah. I told you
All
the
the
guy's
major-
got a plan, man. Yeah, he's not leaving anything to chance, you know.
He's a details man. He's detail oriented. You know,
He's got to sort out. He even says something about the franchises, because doesn't that what he says? He's like, if we
Yeah.
put the food court here, the franchises will get very upset. Like, he's going to sign up all these different companies, and you know.
No, he's like, all the major franchises will want in in a city founded by a warlord.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, because he talks at one point about how the governments of the world spurned me, but corporations embraced me because I basically had drug money to spend on all their weapons and stuff. And I'm like, man, this movie was ahead of its time.
Like that speech, I think it's around that bit in the movie too, when he's talking about like his vision, and he's like going, I'm trying to create the perfect soldier for peace, or whatever it is. And it's this biblical speech, man, that just goes on. And like the way he delivers it is like, this dude's passionate about what he's trying to do here. You know, he's not just crazy. I mean, he's a crazy dude, but yeah.
I was fully bought into what he was selling there. And he's like,
absolutely.
When all the world is in the loving grip of the Pax by Sonica.
And the music during that is so good. It's just got this really good music like going on in the background. Like, it's perfect. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I'm just imagining the film crew watching that unfold and just being like, I don't know, like torn between laughing and like awe at what's happening.
Like, that's like a standing ovation, like an applause from the crew at the end of that speech. You know what I mean? That's the type of level it's getting to, you know?
Absolutely.
In a Street Fighter film.
I know. God. Yeah. So he brings Chun-Li into his quarters, and that's when, she explains about her father and how, like, in Bison's younger days, he raided their village, and her father drove his forces back, and then they had him killed as a result. And he just gives the best comeback of all time, where he's just like, yeah, I don't remember any of that. But for you, the day that Bison graced your village was the greatest day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
It's one of the sickest burns ever in any film, I think. You've got to give it credit. Yeah. And the music stops, because when she's telling a story, there's this sad music. And as soon as he just looks up and goes, I don't remember any of that, the music cuts straight away.
Yeah.
She's like, what? Yeah. For you, the day Bison graced your village. Yeah.
And the delivery of when he says, like, for me, it was Tuesday, is perfect.
It was Tuesday.
Just absolutely no fucks given from him. I love it.
It's awesome. It's so many lines like that in this film that is what makes this movie so loved, I guess, right? Like, it's those type of things, and this movie is just chock full of that stuff.
Yeah. It's really self-aware, and it's really just having a laugh at itself, and it doesn't take itself seriously, but it has like funny little lines like that delivered by great actors that can kind of really sell it, and all of those things combined just makes a really fun movie that's just completely memeable. And I think that's what's so fun about it. So I think round about this time, that's when Ken and Ryu decide that they're gonna spring Balrog and Honda out of prison. Like they break in there and manage to get them out. I think they were in the process of escaping anyway, because they'd like snapped their chains off. And they all head up to Bison's quarters just as Chun-Li escapes from her restraints and starts kicking the shit out of Bison.
To the point where she was legit about to fucking kill him. Like, that, he was dead, but they burst in like idiots and screw her up. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, she's about to finish him off. She's been kicking the shit out of him for a couple of minutes, and he's done nothing in return. Like, he's been completely blindsided. Yeah. And then they come into the room. Yeah, and she's like, she properly turns around, like, what the fuck? And he just uses the opportunity to like slink away into a chamber and like closes the door.
Yeah, because everyone has like a secret, I suppose you would at that point. He's a crazy ass warlord, but yeah, just so you can flood your room with gas, when someone comes in.
Yeah. Did you notice in his room as well? He's got like a big painting of him on a horse. Like,
you know what I was going to say too? Yeah, there's this. I noticed that too the first time I watched it. She looks over at the wall and there's a painting of him, and it's like a weird sort of painting, and I'd never really thought much about it. But re-looking at it, man, it's Bison as a John Wayne Gacy painting. You know, John Wayne Gacy, that serial killer. Yes. All those creepy paintings where he was like a clown. It's Bison painted in that style. It's like a 1 second cutaway But I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, that's fucking deep. Shit.
That's that's like a self-portrait that he's done, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And she like she looks at it and goes, whoa, what's that all about? But she's in the middle of her like little monologue, so she kind of just they don't linger on it. But it's like, man, that's a smart little, clever little reference, you know?
Yeah, it's like you say, there's lots of little things, little details in this movie that you could kind of, I don't know, maybe if you didn't have the background knowledge about the thing, you would just totally miss it and be like, oh, that's a weird thing that I didn't see.
Yeah.
But then, like, if you know what it is, it's like, oh, wow, that's really cool that they thought to put that in there. Just like depth that you really wouldn't expect in a movie like this.
Yeah.
And there's little, apparently, you know how sometimes you hear like a radio broadcaster on, when you get like establishing shots of Shadaloo, and it'll be like, good morning,
Vietnam
Shadaloo.
thing. Yeah, 100%.
That's the actual guy who used
Oh,
to
is it
do
really?
those. Yeah, they got the actual guy who used to do those broadcasts during the Vietnam War to come in and record that audio for this. And it's like, holy shit.
Because I got the reference. I was like, yeah, that's the Good Morning Vietnam dude, but I didn't actually know it was the guy that they got to do it. So that's even cooler. Yeah.
It's the actual guy, yeah.
Awesome.
They just did that because they could.
You know what we skipped over too? Like, is it that bit in the movie yet when there's like that scene when Guile's watching a video that someone's filmed of him and Blanka or something? Oh, I keep calling him Blanka, but it's Carlos.
It's a little bit later because he's in his boat, his stealth boat, and he's heading towards like Bison's
I meant
base.
to say, is it the same actor who plays Carlos when he's Blanka and when he's normal? I never looked that up. You know, it's like he gets transformed into like a weird ass monster.
I don't think so because he's really big when he's been transformed, and the original guy didn't look that sort of size. I could be wrong, but I'm going to see it actually. I don't know if it's going to be here.
Sorry, I just randomly jumped ahead then because I meant to ask you that before when you were talking about Blanka.
It's only got one. Yeah, it's only got one credit for him, so I don't know. Maybe it is the same guy.
Yeah. Maybe he's like another wrestler or something that they got on the set for that one scene.
Yeah, but I love the fact that in that video, like they're still in their military uniforms. Like,
yeah, just at some weird sort of restaurant or something somewhere. And again, it has like perfect lighting. Someone's operating a camera that's quite clearly on like a steady cam rig or something because it's perfectly smooth.
I love as well how this military boat that's like for stealth attacks has got like a VCR built into it, just in case.
Yeah,
you know, just in case you want to put a tape in and start watching a movie while you're on the way to your mission.
And of course, he has it in the right format to play on this boat as well. Like his tape is that exact same format because there's only one type of tape in the world.
And he needs to remind himself like why he's doing this.
Yeah, it's not to save the free world. I'm just doing this for Carlos.
I'm going in there for Charlie. Yeah, hang in there, buddy.
Hang in there, Charlie.
So, yeah, like, Chun Li's about to kill the shit out of Bison. They interrupt her. That gives him time to escape, and he releases like gas into the room that like knocks them all out.
Yeah, and Honda's delivery of "it's gas" just always cracks me up. The way that dude says that line.
Yeah. Well, it's when they're trying to escape, they just look clumsy as fuck. Like it's clearly like a very flimsy set. And so they have to be careful they don't pound on the door too much because I think it would just fall right over.
When Bison smashes through like the little fireplace thing or whatever it is, when Chun-Li kicks him into it, you can see the outside of the set. There's one shot there where you see Raul Julia smash through that wall, and you can see like a backlight and like the back of the studio. Like they just didn't put anything behind it. Yeah. Just like raw set, just opens up to pitch blackness. Yeah, it's really bad.
And so I think this is when Guile decides to launch his attack against Bison's headquarters, and so he's getting all his troops marshaled and ready to go, and that's when the corporate guy shows up from the Allied nations.
Well. That dude is out Ace Ventura.
Yeah. He's just, I think that actor, like I'm sure I've seen him in a bunch of roles like this where he just plays like a kind of weaselly bureaucrat guy. Yeah, totally. And he's like, oh yes, we believe we can deal with General Bison. And it's funny because Guile's like, well, what's to stop him just taking more hostages and demanding more money, like
50
next month?
million, 100 million, or whatever it is. Yeah.
But the guy's response is just like, have you lost your mind? It's like, why? That's a logical question to ask.
Yeah. No, you've lost your balls. Yeah, that's the logical response to that too. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the 90s response.
Yeah.
It's like anyone questions what you're doing, it's like, yeah, you've lost your balls. But that's when he delivers his epic speech, and God bless Jean Claude. You know, he's not quite a Raul Julia when it comes to delivering a monologue.
He tries though.
Yeah, it's like, we can all go home.
But it's okay because we can all go home.
The whole world will get destroyed, but we can all go home.
We can all go home. Well, I'm not going to go home, and that turn, and then the music starts to build up as well. It's like, dude, it's epic. Yeah.
Oh man, when he's talking about the boat and stuff, it's like, I'm going to take my boat upriver, and I'm going to kick that son of a bitch bison's ass so hard, the next bison wannabe is going to feel it.
Gonna feel it.
Yeah.
He wants to go home. Who wants to go with me?
Yeah, it's like every person's like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And they keep showing, like, there's this one soldier that they keep showing reacting to his speech. Like, you think you'd show the whole crowd, but it's just one soldier they keep punching in on. It's just like one little, like, wheezy looking dude. And he's just kind of sitting there smiling with this really weird face.
Yeah.
Plus, he's teary-eyed. If you notice at the end of that, Jean Claude's got all these tears in his eyes. Like, he was moved by his own words, man. You know, he believes in the mission. Yeah.
He was 100% invested in this one.
Yeah.
And so, God. So they all agree to go. They're just like, fuck it, we'll disobey orders, we're off. And he gets in his boat and off he goes. And that's when he has to watch his little tape just to remind him why he's on this mission in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing because they engage like the stealth mode of this boat. And so it goes kind of invisible and it can't appear on radar. And then so what they decide to do then is start blowing up radar stations all along the river, which absolutely would just alert bison to the fact that you're there.
Yeah, but I think I hate to defend it, but I think they were doing that so the main fleet could come up uninterrupted, right? That's how I always saw it. So like they're blowing up all the defenses and the radars, so then Bison's men won't know that the rest of the sort of artillery, the rest of the platoon or whatever is coming up behind them. That's how I justified it. Otherwise, yeah, again, it's probably just something that makes no sense. Or maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
You could be right, actually. It could make sense. I think the only reason I thought it was weird is because like the main force goes a different way. And the stealth boat goes like...
Yeah.
I think they're trying to attack from different directions or whatever, but the stealth boat kind of goes down one branch of the river and the other ones go like a different way. And I'm kind of like, well, blowing up the radar stations there just tells bison that you're coming, but maybe it's like a distraction or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. Either way, they get rumbled, and so he starts like he triggers like the defenses to like blow them up, and it's just mines everywhere. But it's laid out as
Street Fighter arcade cabinet too. I think
to
control it.
God, it had to be, didn't it?
Yeah.
And you actually see him there just like hammering the buttons. Like, what does that even relate to what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
They're kind of like, oh, we're going to get blown up. It's like, oh, we better bail out then. And then he just hits them all at the same time. And then the boat just magically explodes.
But I love Camu's Kylie Minogue's dialogue in that scene because she hasn't really had much dialogue in that scene. And she's like the only one talking in that whole bit because she's giving the update on like, we're getting tracked, sir. And dude, Kylie Minogue is giving it everything in that scene. Like she's going hardcore. You know what I mean? She's like, stealth compromise. They know we're coming, sir. And it's just this constant. She's just constantly updating with what's happening. It's perfect.
Yeah, I love as well how
the cash that day.
Well, I love how they discover this is the point where they realize that Guile is still alive, and so Sagat is like,
the best line ever. Yeah.
Alive, and then you just get that epic meme from fucking Bison where he just whirls around. Of course.
No, but the best bit after that is like when he says. He's like, how did he find where we are? And he goes, because he's spy, like Ken Ryu, like you know, ingratiated so that he could find out where you are. I guess you didn't see that. He covers his one eye.
Yeah,
it's like, damn, dude.
Properly mocking the disabled right there.
Yeah. I guess you didn't see that. The way he delivers that line is like, whoa, man. Just let's get some aloe vera for that burn. Like, holy shit.
It's the fact that he does it and then he just goes. You know, just like absolute scorn, just fucking heaped on
Sagat
Sagat.
says nothing. Yeah, Sagat's just like, well, I guess you got a point. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just so many of Bison's lines are just perfect. You know.
And the best bit too about the mine scene, there's all these cutaways of Zangief as he just keeps like looking up at the screen. You got to watch that scene and just look for the Zangief reaction shots, man. They're fucking brilliant.
He's just always good, like, because he always, you know, sometimes like you can tell actors kind of know that the camera's not really on them, and so they kind of relax and they're not really like, you know, they're not really in the scene. But it's like he's 100% on it every time, even when he's way off in the background. I just love it.
There's a line like at the end, not to jump ahead, but he says something, and the Chun-Li actress is staring at him, and she's 100% staring at him out of character. Like she's looking at him as herself when he says like he was a true warrior, and this chick's just like looking at him like what the fuck's wrong with this dude? Like she has that look of like sudden realization of him. Oh my god, I'm in this Street Fighter movie. Like what the fuck am I doing right now? Like you know what I mean? Because of the way he does it. But man, Zangief, faultless performance. Yeah, you can't fault that dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
110%.
So they make it ashore, I guess, and they're able to like infiltrate the temple where Bison is based. And so I think Guile goes down underground so he can sneak down through the tunnels, whereas Cammy and T-Hawk just kind of linger about on the surface, waiting for the rest of the troops to arrive. And wouldn't you know it, he happens to like pop up in the lab where Blanka is.
And Dalsim.
And Dalsim, yeah. And so Blanka, by this point, I think, has escaped from his containment because, like, the guard that was watching over all this realizes that Dalsim was trying to feed, like, you know, good energy or positive stuff into his programming, and so like they get into like a fight, and it like knocks him over, and like he escapes basically and kills the guy. So. You know.
Yeah, and there's a bit in there too when Dalsim gets thrown against Blanka's machine and the steroid stuff goes over his arm. And I've always wondered if that was supposed to have done something, because like if that was planned for them to have actually made him like the video game character, because you know in the game you can extend his limbs. And I feel like that was written like they were going to do something with it, but they just never wrote it in. You know what I mean?
With both of those characters, 100%, because you know you've got Blanka and Dalsim. They both get killed in the explosion.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there would have been an original draft of the script where Dalsim's limbs start to stretch like he 100%. Could in the game, because he's like,
it's like you've got the origin story, but you kill him off once you've told the backstory. So it goes
because there's a bit like like his final scene basically, his lab coat and his clothes basically seem to have just vanished, and he's just wearing like his jeans.
He's got a bald head as well for some reason.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, he suddenly looks like his video game character for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's like, it really felt like they were reaching with that one, and there was probably more.
Was that a pun?
I actually didn't mean to do that.
There you
go. But yeah, I think again, it's probably just a casualty of having so many characters to work with, and probably having to cut stuff out to fit it all in. But
Can you imagine that 90s special effect though? If they had that dude's like arm extending or something, like he's like, "Go, I'll hold the door," then his arm like extends.
Oh god. Because I still remember from the Mortal Kombat movie where I think it's Sub-Zero who like launches a chain or something out of his hand.
Oh, Scorpion,
Scorpion, yeah.
Oh, don't get that mixed up. You'll get people at you for that.
Yeah, sorry. But the CGI is so awful that it doesn't even match up with where his wrist is. So it's just like his arm's kind of moving around and this thing's just static on screen. And it's like the worst effect ever. But I just imagine it would be like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, because they, like you say, they build him up and it looks like there's something's going to happen with that character, but no, I think they huddle in that little laboratory in basically the fetal position and just wait for themselves to be blown up.
It's really sad actually. In a movie that's generally like quite lighthearted and stuff, it's like, well, that's a really tragic end for these two characters. Like,
Guile's about to execute him. Yeah, Guile's about to just blow his brains out, man. Like, it's giving him a merciful death. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah. I love how that's his reaction as well. Like this guy who recognizes him and recognizes that he's his friend and stuff. And it's like, well, I could try and take you away and put you through like rehabilitation and all that stuff. But it's like, nah, just fucking shoot you. It's better for this.
Yeah. He does have time for that. He's got to go out, fight Bison. He's got to, no time for that. Got to kick him in the face. So
Yeah. You know what's interesting as well? Like he pulls back the slide on his gun to cock it, even though it's clearly already cocked and there's a round in the chamber, because you actually hear it like ping into the ground.
Oh, really? I never noticed that.
And it's really odd because they could have just had an empty gun for that scene. Like they didn't have to put anything in it, but they clearly had a blank round in the chamber. He cocks
But it's like
it,
you say, yeah. Every time you pick up a gun, the gun makes a noise, and every time before you shoot every gun, you have to pull the slide back. You have to do it in movies, right? So
yeah, just
otherwise it's not loaded. Or if you have a shotgun,
totally.
you got to every time, even if there's one loaded. You know, you have to eject that shell and just put a fresh one in.
Yeah. And so yeah, he wants to shoot him, but then Dalzim intervenes, and he's like, you know, as you said, like he's lacking his clothes, he's lacking his hair now for some reason, and he's like, no, don't shoot him. He's like humans. He's got the capacity for good and evil. It's like, damn, this is going into real philosophy here. Deep meaning in this movie.
He has a go at Guile for like killing him. He's like, you want to kill him because he's different or something like this. It's like, dude, like, you know, fuck, what are we supposed to be doing at this point? You know, taking the moral high ground's a bit odd here. You know,
it made me laugh when I was watching it because he sits down like he's about to get into a really deep philosophical discussion with him, and then all of a sudden, like alarms go off and the computer voice comes on. It's like, you know, chamber, sorry, like containment chamber is rising to hostage level. Stand back, please. You know,
containment chamber 4B serial code. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
And so it's Bison basically. He's going to execute the hostages using what he thinks is going to be Blanka as a weapon. Like he thinks this animal's just going to come out and tear them apart. And instead, like Guile rides it up. And I don't understand the physics of this for the life of me. But like he's in this little tiny chamber the size of a phone booth. It comes up to the level of the hostages, and you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Because there's like smoke everywhere. And then he just flies out of this thing like a fucking missile, like someone just launched him out of a catapult, foot already out, like he's fly kicking someone, and he just lands straight at Bison without knowing where he was or where he was standing or anything. He just hits him. I was like, God damn, this movie's perfect.
It's lucky. It's lucky that Bison was within kicking distance, because otherwise it could have just been 50 soldiers, or Bison could have been up on a scaffolding somewhere, and he could have just been, you know, murdered straight away. So that was quite a gamble. Yeah,
because he was able to leap over the giant like spiked fence that's risen up all around this thing. He goes clean over that, and hits Bison right in the chest. And damn, man,
he must be going fast because Bison doesn't even react. Like he just stands there for the 2 seconds it takes Guile to reach him and kick him. He just kind of stands there like, huh, and then gets kicked.
I mean, they're both pretty terrible at reacting when you think about it. Like, there's that scene later on when Bison flies into him with his levitating boots, and it takes him like a good 20 seconds to like fly across the room. Yeah. And Guile just stands there and lets him crash into him. Like, it's just
7 times. Yeah. Goes, I might kick him back this time. That's my only defense is kicking.
Yeah. Oh man. And so, yeah, they get into like this big epic fight where, you know, pretty much Guile just kicks the shit out of him. I actually felt sorry for Bison because he's like clearly an old frail man getting beaten up by this.
He puts up a fight for like sort of the first half, I guess, maybe. Like he does okay for the first little bit. Yeah.
Well, there's a bit like later on in that fight, like before he comes
hang on.
back.
Yeah, they all spread out at that point, don't they? Like that's when shit goes crazy.
There's he kicks him, and then basically there's a big gunfight where like a bunch of shit just explodes and people are dying everywhere. And he's got his plot armor on, so he's fine. And I think at the same time that's when the Allied Nations forces land outside, so there's like shit going on there. And it's hard to even like sum it all up because there's so much stuff going on simultaneously. Like Ryu and Ken split up because they argue about something, and like
which Ryu is again like it's a cool like way of bringing those two characters together, because I think in the game like as well, like they're bros, but they're like very different philosophically. You know what I mean? So it's a cool thing, man. Like it kind of keeps it in line with their characters in the game. You know, I mean, aside from the fact they're shitty arms dealers, but yeah, it's a good way to adapt those two characters into the movie. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's even explained in this movie that they're not so much arms dealers in that they kind of steal from other thieves and criminals, and they con them. Yeah, and it's so almost like they prey on criminals rather than good people. But they operate outside the law, obviously. But I think it's always implied that Ken's the one who's more into that stuff. He's more morally flexible, whereas Ryu's a bit more reluctant to do it.
Yeah, there's one line when he says, this is going against everything our sensei taught us, and that's the one thing you get about the fact that they both trained together when they were like younger, like that connection that they have with their history, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but then you get a kind of redemption for Ken because they split up and they part ways, and Ken's just like he's just looking for stuff to loot so he can get out of there. And then that's when I think he sees on the security footage that Ryu's about to get ambushed by Sagat and Vega. And he's like, oh, shit, I've got to go and help my buddy.
But he's not quite convinced that he wants to be a good guy yet, because despite the fact he sees Ryu about to get ambushed, he still carries that fucking statue with him. So it's like, oh, I want to help him, but I still want this gold statue. Do you know what I mean? It's like if he had left the statue, he would have traveled twice as fast. But he's like, I'll just bring this with me. But again, it's also for the punchline when he sort of kicks it onto Sagat, But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. That whole fight scene is just great fun to watch because, like,
amazing.
Even when it's just Ryu initially taking on the two of them, it's quite well choreographed. Like he can obviously fight, and so he can. That dude's a fighter.
Yeah. He was in the actor who plays Ryu, I think, was in Altered Carbon as well. There's like a scene where he's fighting in that Netflix series, which was pretty average the whole series, but yeah, like in that one scene he was in, he's like a cage fighter, and you watch the scene, you're like, yeah, this dude clearly knows what he's doing. So he's obviously a trained martial artist to some extent.
Oh, that's pretty cool because, like, he's got the kind of charisma of an actor, so like he looks fairly natural, but obviously he can also fight, so it's like a good combination. Whereas you tend to get one or the other in films
there's a
like
bit
this.
There's a bit too when Vega comes up and sort of ambushes him and says, like, where were we? And what they've done there, I reckon they've cheated it in editing, because he comes in and he goes, where were we? Ryu kicks him in the head, like gets a good kick, and then goes, you were losing. But what they've done is you can tell, like, when he says you were losing, it takes place from the exact same camera angle as the first line. So what they originally did, I think, was he said you were losing, then he's kicked him, but they've added in the kick and then put the line after that. It's this really weird, like, jump in angles. It just looks really out of place. I don't know if you noticed that when you're watching it.
I think it's better the way they've done it, though, because it just, like, kind of underscores the point he's making. It's like, I'm still going to kick your ass. And he's like, yeah, you're losing. But he wasn't actually the last time they fought, because it was kind of a stalemate. They never even got a chance to really go at it, as far as I remember. With
Ryu and Vega?
Yeah. Because they were in the prison fighting, weren't they?
Oh, like, yeah. But every time they fought, it's that's the only problem I guess I have with it, is that it's like very clearly geared towards Ryu winning the whole time. Like, it's never really like Vega's much of a threat. When Sagat comes in, Sagat's like a badass, but the whole thing with Vega just kind of comes across like, he's not that scary, because Ryu kind of almost beats him up at the prison anyway, right?
I mean, I think it was kind of a draw, really, in the prison, because obviously Vega had the claw that he'd like made so that he could take him on, but I didn't feel like they really got much of a chance to fight before they were split up.
Yeah, I don't know. I always just had the thing that, like, it just seemed in the prison fight that it was definitely swayed towards Ryu being a better fighter.
It probably was, yeah. I think they were never trying to imply that, like, Vega was going to kick his ass or anything, but I think it was still a good line anyway when he's like, yeah, you were losing.
Losing.
Yeah, so obviously, he's getting his ass kicked up to a point, but then, Ken comes in to help him out, and then you have a good kind of set to between the two of them. But the better fighters of those actors are Vega and Ryu, for sure. Right. Yeah. And I do quite like the bit where, Ryu knocks him down, and Vega tries to, like, spring up and hit him with his claw, but it catches on like a piece of metal above him, and it rips the thing off.
The bench press. Yeah, it's on the barbell thing. Yeah.
It's just, I always like that bit. It's quite well choreographed, that whole bit. It's like, because
it's the other thing too, is it's the only fight scene where they do their special moves. Like, Ryu does the spinning kick at one point, like where he does the 360, and like that's from the game, and he does like a Hadouken at one point. There's like a bit when he does the Hadouken.
Yes, like you get a flash of white. Yeah,
that's like a Hadouken, and I think Ken kind of does the Shuriken at the end. Like, he does like an uppercut to Sagat, which is kind of the Shuriken.
Yeah,
So it's like
it's a pretty clumsy shoryuken. Like,
yeah, this is a Street Fighter movie. Yeah, and there's one shot in there which always cracks me up, man. When Ken starts beating Sagat, whatever happens is like the fight turns in his favor, and he knocks Sagat down. They just show this like reaction shot of Ken. He just looks down and just does this smile, like as Sagat when he punches him. Do you know the bit I'm talking about? It's just really odd cutaway. It's just really creepy.
I love the bit where there's like a speedball between the two of them, like a punch bag, and like Ken hits it so it hits Sagat in the face, and he's like, "Ah, I got you," and Sagat just fucking kicks it so hard that it explodes.
And it makes this noise like it's a balloon or something.
Oh, there's so many moments in this film, man. Honestly,
it's fantastic. And Sagat does this little laugh too. He has a great little evil laugh. Where it's like when he's like fighting him. It's perfect, man.
Yeah. Oh God. Because the actor they've got, I think, like Wes Studi, I think his name is. You know, he was in Last of the Mohicans and stuff like that. He's
a good actor, man. He's got a good build to him too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a proper, like Raul Julia, you know, a serious actor. And so the fact that they got him for this role was just awesome. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how they did it and how they convinced him, but fucking hell, it's a good job. And so there's all this stuff going on. There's all these fights happening simultaneously. Like Honda and Zangief go at it, and they start crushing like Bisonopolis. They fucking throw each other through the floor. They're that heavy.
Yeah, you notice the floor turns into like plastic. That one like panel that they're on is clearly like plastic.
Yeah. Oh, totally. You can see it bending and flexing as they go. God. But Guile, he does
his little slap thing too. I think at one point Honda does like, you know, the slap where if you press the punch button, he goes like that. He's like
the 100-second hand slap. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it's the 100 slap thing. He's like doing that to Zangief, which I thought was cool too.
Yeah. No, they managed to fit in quite a few of the moves, and it's really cool. There's a really good bit where as well, like Guile's confronted by like a dozen Bison troopers who come in with their guns, and like he just brings out a knife because it's all he's got, and they start backing away, and you get this.
He's like, oh.
Yeah, Van Damme just gives this great little smile, this absolute cocky, like, yeah, I got this. And then you just see behind him, and there's like, you know, a dozen of his own troopers there.
Yeah, and again, you hear the of all the guns loading. Like that's that classic thing again. I think Cammy's just like, so we're pushing the enemy back. He's like, oh yes, you are.
Yeah, he looks really embarrassed, and he just kind of puts the knife away, like but they all basically fuck off so that him and Bison can go at it and have a fight. And that's when, you know,
there's some great lines of dialogue then in that little interaction though before they fight. Like she says something like, "Sir, you're giving him exactly what he wants," and he's like, "No, that's what we both want." It's just like it's such a good setup, man. It's like the final fight.
Yeah, and I think when Bison's like, "You've made me a happy man," and he's like, "Soon I'll make you a dead one."
Oh, it's so good. Soon I'll make you a dead one. It's like, damn.
So, I mean, it really, I think it's Bison kind of holds his own initially, but like quickly he gets overpowered, and like Guile just kind of kicks him into a control panel, which electrocutes him to death.
Yeah, that's some bad engineering too, man. That like you just land on a panel and you get electrocuted to death. Like shit, some safety issues there, I think.
I mean, like does that much power go through something like that it can like kill you? Damn. It's like you feel sorry for any guy who trips over or bumps into one. And it's like, he just gets electrocuted. And that's it. He's gone.
But there's some pretty dodgy. Like there's a few things in that when he does these roundhouse kicks to Bison, where it's like these 3-second long roundhouse kicks. Which, I mean, he telegraphs them so obviously, man. I don't understand how anyone could get hit by that. But Bison just sort of stands there and gets kicked in the face 5 times by these roundhouse kicks.
Yeah, that's. I got pissed off at Guile during that moment because he does that thing that your mate does sometimes when he really wants to win, where like he'll knock you down, and just as your character's getting up, he'll just kick you again.
Yeah, with the backflip kick thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you can't block it, and you can't like move away from it because your character's just getting up, and that's what he fucking does to Bison like 3 times.
He's switching the animation so he can't get back up again.
Yeah, what a dick. But it seems to kill him, but then it's you know, he's on the radio to Cammy like, "Oh, you need to get the hostages out of here," and you just see like the
Defibrillator
Bison's
and all
suit,
that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's got a computer system that basically like brings him back to life. It's like it does CPR to him, it gives him adrenaline, and then it just like gives him the, what do you call it when you get electroshocked, basically to
Yeah,
bring your heart
defibrillator.
back.
Yeah.
Defibrillator, yeah.
Yeah.
And he just comes up like this fucking zombie behind him, and you just see Guile just like slowly turn around, like, what the fuck?
That is like creepy as shit, though. Like I remember that being creepy as hell. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
The way he stands there, and he's got this like really weird look in his face at that point. Like he's technically a zombie because he's come back from the dead. So yeah, it's creepy, man.
Yeah, and he just he zaps him with electricity. It's like proper Star Wars shit. It's like he's become Palpatine.
Yeah, he's fucking Palpatine. Yeah.
And,
and that line too, when he says something like, "You came here to confront a warlord, but found a god," and just has this delivery which is next level.
He is monologuing with the absolute best of them during all of this, because he's coming out with all this stuff. Like
the line about the technology is awesome too. He's like, what does he say? It powers the bullet train in Tokyo, and the way he just describes his stuff, man, it's so cool.
He's like, this is merely superconducting electromagnetism. Surely you've heard of it.
That totally justifies me completely cheating at this point and just zapping the shit out of you.
Yeah. And he does that thing that I was talking about earlier, where he flies up in the air and he does this really slow wind up where he comes in like a trapeze artist or something, basically. And Guile doesn't think to move or dodge or anything. He just takes it straight on, gets knocked down.
Stands there and gets punched in the head 5 times.
And Bison just delivers this line like, "I beheld Satan as he fell from the heavens like lightning." Christ, like not many guys could deliver a line like that.
Yeah, but and again, like that's his move in the game, right? Because he has I think it's called Psycho Crusher in the game, and I only know this because I used to spam the fuck out of it when I played Street Fighter with my mates. So because if you play as Bison in Street Fighter 2 and you hold back for a couple of seconds, then you press forward and the punch button, that's how you do that move. So you could play on the defense and your mate's trying to pummel you, and then you just suddenly press forward and punch and you do that move. So it's actually accurate to the game of it being a bullshit move that people can't avoid, because that's exactly what it was in the video game.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Like they obviously, they incorporated it into the movie as best you can, because damn, there's moves in that game that you just couldn't represent visually in a film. Yeah. Not like a film that's based in any kind of reality, I suppose. But I remember that move. It's like he kind of spins round, corkscrews towards you with like blue fire coming off him or something. It's really
his whole body's covered in like fire, basically. Yeah, and you get hit by it, and your character like burns up as well. It's really weird.
The AI does it all the time when you've got to fight him. It's like, fucking hell, leave me alone, man. So it's actually accurate to the game. So you got to give him credit for that again. And so I think basically Guile just takes hit after hit of this before realizing, I'm fucking Jean Claude Van Damme, man. And so he just like fly kicks him just as he comes in, like for the last time, and then just I don't understand the physics behind this at all, but like he goes flying backwards and lands against and lands on a bunch of TV monitors that are vertical and just kind of sticks to them, and then they explode. Because you see it later on, like when the base self-destructs, and he's still up there.
He's still stuck in them.
What is holding him up?
I think it's supposed to be that he kicked him with so much force that he's like smashed through them, right? But yeah, it literally looks like he's just hanging there on like a coat hanger or something.
Yeah. Oh, Christ, it's amazing.
But yeah, eventually he has the good sense to think, maybe I should do some kind of defense against this. And one kick is all it takes. And I think it does that thing where it shows like 4 or 5 different replays of him flying back, which is so 90s again, right? It's like, just keep showing it.
It reminds me of Commando. I don't know if you've seen the fight between between Schwarzenegger and Bennett. And the bit where Schwarzenegger just goes bullshit, and he just starts punching him, and then you get that flash animation and the flash edit of like 5 punches, just like within the space of like 2 seconds.
Bullshit. Like that all fight. You should do a thing on that movie, man. That's like one of the greatest action films of all time, too. Commando, Jesus.
I believe it or not, I have. I've done it with
Yeah.
Heel versus Babyface. We did like a stream on that, and we just had a ball just talking about
Man.
that film.
There's so much in that film alone, isn't there?
The one-liners, the kind of tongue-in-cheek humor throughout the whole thing. Oh Christ, it's
Because I've often
some
thought
movie.
that Schwarzenegger would have made a good Zangief too. Because he kind of fits in with the, like, at least he's got the European angle. Like, he would have made a good Zangief. I think in like another universe, if they had the budget, he would have been Zangief. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think a guy like him would have completely overshadowed everyone else.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like, obviously, he was an A-lister at that point, and like, he would have been a way bigger star than Van Damme. But
quick, change the channel.
Yeah, it would have been incredible to see him like in a movie like this.
Welcome to Shadaloo, come on.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Bison taken care of, and like the whole place is about to explode now, so everyone's fucking fleeing for their lives, and DJ makes a run for it with his Bison dollars. They're trying to get out, and like a big door comes down, and so Zangief just steps in and like lifts the fucking thing up because
we glossed over the bit with the two of them fighting when Honda's like, they all run past. It's so casual, like, Honda, come on, we've got to go. It's like not going to help him. Just like, we just got to go, right? He's like, sorry, man, I can't play no more. And he just runs off.
Yeah, he's like, where are you going, you coward? And then, like, I think DJ's there as well, and he's like, DJ, where are you going? He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah. He's like, why are these people trying to kill us? He's like, because our boss is the bad guy. He's like, Bison's a bad guy?
Yeah. And he's like, why did you serve with him? And he's like, well, because he's paid me a shitload of money. And then Zangief's like, yeah, you got paid.
That's when you realize the whole time, Zangief's a hero, man. You can't hate this guy at this point. Yeah.
He absolutely is. Yeah, he's just like been totally manipulated.
Yeah. And so that shot of him with the door is like fucking epic, man. The dude's like jacked up like crazy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And he saves the day. He holds the door open so everyone else can escape.
Yeah.
And Guile for some reason hangs around in the lab for like way too long. And the whole temple explodes. And everyone's like, "Oh shit, he didn't make it. What a shame. He didn't he didn't get out of there." And then he just kind of appears out of the smoke. He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, it's not a very big like reveal of him having survived. It's just like he literally comes out of the background of a wide shot, I think, and he's just like, "Oh, okay, I'm still alive," and that's it. It's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that was anticlimactic. Kylie Minogue just acting up a storm there. She's crying her eyes out, like, "Oh, you made it."
And that's that bit I'm talking about with the line from Zangief when he says that thing, and the Chun-Li actress, like, literally out of character, just looking at this guy like, oh my God, this is like, you just can tell she suddenly realizes what film she's in and how embarrassed she is to be in this movie,
I think she went on to do quite a bit, as I remember.
She was Mulan. I'm pretty sure she's Mulan. It's the same voice actor Mulan. So like that alone is like a pretty cool, like iconic role for the 90s, like one of the biggest cartoons Disney did, right? So she's pretty distinguished, man.
I mean, I'm looking at a picture of her from like a couple of years ago. She's 57 now, so she would have been like mid-50s then. Man, she looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like she's barely aged. It's really weird. But yeah, she's beautiful in this movie. I'll give her that.
It's the bit when it's like the outfit. It's like the black jumpsuit thing is pretty good.
Oh yeah. But the bit where she's like an acrobat as well, it's like, oh man, she stays in shape.
That's a good joke too that we kind of glossed over when they're all describing their backstories and they're going like, he ruined my boxing career, and then Honda's like, he ruined my chance at Yokozuna, and then Ken goes to Charlie and says, let me guess, figure skating.
Yeah.
It's like great joke.
She has a little moment with Cammy as well, where she's like pigtails, and she's like, "Oh, look who's talking!" And like they've both got the same thing. She's like, "Oh, fuck!"
Yeah, and that's cool because they've both got their video game outfits on at that point. Like that's the closest she's got to the outfit from the game. Cammy's got the pigtails and the military outfit. It's a good little joke.
Yeah, and so it kind of ends with like, I think Zangief does his like whole thumbs not up but like across or something, like to Guile, and Guile's like, "No, this is how you do it, you dick." And he's like, "Ah, okay." And you get like everyone just strikes a pose for some reason at the end.
Oh, I love it. That's the best bit. There's literally no reason for them to do it, but they all pull off their little winning poses from the game again. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a good, like I was saying to you earlier, like I watched this film just like this afternoon for the stream, and it'd been a while since I'd seen it, and God, it was so fun. Like I was laughing out loud like many times while watching it. It's just a great fun movie.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna go down in the annals of history as like a great Hollywood production, but God, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know, like I'd love to show it to someone who wasn't born in the 90s and isn't into Street Fighter and gets none of it, and just see if they appreciate it. Because I don't know, I feel like we like it because we have so much context of just all the events surrounding it. But yeah, I would be interested to see if you showed it to someone now and just, wanted to know how they thought of it. Because like I feel, like I said before, that it stands on its own in terms of like the writing and the jokes. Like every character has their backstories, their arcs, like what they're trying to do. Like it's you can't fault the way it's kind of put together in that sense. You know what I mean? This is what we're doing. This is the goal. This is where everyone's going. Everyone works together, and then it kind of culminates in this final thing. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's not bad in that sense on the most basic level.
I think when you consider the number of characters that you have to deal with, and you have to try and give them all some kind of arc and some kind of backstory and a point for being in the film, basically, that is a challenge. And it's not a long movie either. Like this is about an hour and a half, I think, in total.
Yeah, about hour 40, I think, yeah.
So you don't have a lot of screen time to play with to get all of this stuff done. And so the way it kind of approaches it is like it breaks them up into sort of three main groups. You've got you've got Guile versus Bison. You've got Chun-Li in her kind of quest for revenge against Bison, and you've got Ryu and Ken versus Vega and Sagat. And so all of these things, like you've got a bunch of different rivalries where they're all going to get to fight each other. They've all got a kind of reason for being there, and it all kind of gets resolved in a fairly efficient manner. It's certainly not amazing writing or anything, but it kind of does the job to facilitate what's going on. And so it's fine for me. And like I say, it's not a film that really markets itself as a serious drama or anything like that. It's just like a fun, lighthearted, campy action film.
Yeah, and like we were saying, about the most sort of sinister it ever gets is the whole Blanka bit when he's about to put him out of his misery. But the rest of it is sort of, consequence-less action that just kind of gets you to the next scene. Yeah, so like it's hard to fault. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so. And it's infinitely memeable. Having Raul Julia in it, like just absolutely nailing it as Bison, like it just makes the movie so much more fun to watch.
It's kind of it's kind of why I like, not to change subjects, but it's kind of why I think I like Mortal Kombat as well. I don't think I like it as much as Street Fighter, but like the dude who plays Shang Tsung in the Mortal Kombat film, like that dude is just eating the goddamn scenery, man, trying to be as evil as possible. You know what I mean? Like the flawless victory, and he's given all the narrations during the fight scenes. Like it's just like someone taking it that much more seriously, because you could have hired an actor who would have gone in there and just be like, fuck this, like I have no interest in this piece of shit, and they just kind of phone it in. But it does have that feeling where the big names have really given it everything they can. So
yeah, I think the guy that always kind of makes me laugh is Ken. And I can't remember the actor's name, but like I get the impression like that guy really knew like, oh,
what he was in.
Yeah, like this perhaps isn't the movie I thought it was going to be, and he just looks kind of embarrassed like throughout most of it, and just like he really doesn't want to be there.
But he has some of the best jokes, though. He has so many great lines in the movie, that actor. Like when Chun-Li spits on him and he's just like, don't spit on me, you'll dehydrate yourself, or something like this. Like there's constant little funny little lines that this dude has.
Yeah, great. That was a weird comeback, but yeah. He gave it his best shot.
Yeah.
But I mean overall, man, like God, it was fun. Like I say, it was enjoyable. It made me laugh. And you don't really get films like that now.
I guess so. Yeah.
I think with video game adaptations, they try to take themselves a lot more seriously now.
Yeah, well, you compare like what they did with this to this upcoming Mortal Kombat film, which looks almost like it's just going to be beat for beat to the game in terms of like the characters, the way they look, the way they act, and all their abilities and stuff. Whereas this, like I said, it's it was, I hate to say that, but it is kind of ahead of its time in that sense of like, it was an early example of how do we take this stupid concept of a video game and make it work in the real world, which is what, all these comic book films and that have been doing now for decades, dude, and we just kind of accept it now,
Yeah. I think even with the new Mortal Kombat movie, and the trailer looked great. Like, I'm totally in with this.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was taking itself too seriously, where you've got like the guy holding the human skull with the spine attached to it, and he's like, "Oh, you fucking beauty,"
Oh, yeah, he's an Aussie bloke too, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to have an Aussie to deliver a line like that,
Yeah.
But it seems like it's going to be super violent, but it's not going to be really serious or anything. I think it's going to take itself. It'll be quite tongue in cheek as well.
Yeah, no, but I mean, just in the sense of it, just sticking to the sort of outlandish like backstory of everything, instead of trying to really translate it to a real setting. From what I can tell from the trailer, anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. Obviously with this, taking the Street Fighter game as a source material, they went in a completely different direction with it, and they kind of morphed it into this sort of weird epic war drama, or action movie kind of thing. And it's a different sort of path that they took with it, but like it facilitated getting all these like really diverse characters into one movie, and having some sort of reason why they should be there. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm fine with that.
I know there was the Street Fighter anime thing that came out. I don't know if it came out around the same time. I'm pretty sure it did. I don't know if it was the exact same year, but that was basically just the video game sort of almost copied across verbatim in terms of like the characters who worked for. Because I mean, like in the game, Balrog also works for Bison, I think. Like Balrog and Vega and Sagat are like his sort of like lieutenants or something. Because Shadowloo is like a massive drug cartel, I think, as well in the video game. That's why Bison's sort of untouchable, because he lives in this, what is it, like an Asian country, which is Shadowloo, so he's sort of untouched. But it's so interesting to compare that movie to the anime which came out. I don't know if you've seen the anime.
I haven't actually seen it, no.
Man, you should look it up. It's badass. Like 90s anime was just next level in terms of the violence, and like it's fucking dark too. There's some twisted shit in it.
Yeah. No, I'd heard good things about it. I guess it's just one of those things that kind of passed me by at the time. But no, yeah, it'd be good to see something like that that's more, more faithful to it, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's got like the characters, like Ryu and Sagat originally too had their sort of what do you call it? Like they're more nemesis than Ken and Sagat are supposed to be, so they kind of swapped it for the movie for some reason. But like the film opens with Ryu and Sagat beating the shit out of each other in this like thunderstorm. And like they're shooting Hadoukens at each other, and like Ray does a Hadouken and will shout Hadouken, like it's the video game in anime form. But it's the animation, dude, is like incredible. It's aged really well, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think the problem is you've got two Street Fighter sort of things that came out around the same time, and it seems like they're just so vastly different, but so quality for different reasons. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I'll need to give that a watch in that case, because I like the sound of that, to be honest.
It's got a scene in it where like Vega just beats the absolute shit out of Chun-Li, which was one of the first times I've ever seen a scene of a woman getting, it's a cartoon obviously, but like a woman just getting fucking stomped on by Vega, like with the blades, like he's cutting her up, hitting her with his little thing. So
damn. Yeah,
it's hardcore.
Yeah, that shit wouldn't fly nowadays. Like that would not be allowed.
Yeah.
No, that sounds cool, man. I'll definitely give that a watch. Well, we've got a few super chats, because I did say at the beginning, like I would leave them until the end, till we'd kind of talked about the movie and have a crack at them. So, I mean, if you've got time, it'd be great to go through them with you.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool, man.
All good.
Okay, so Chucksenhausen here says Ryu, Guile, Bison, Chun-Li, they can't hold a crane kick to Hawk from Cobra Kai. Naturally, put Hawk in a cage with any of these players, and it's a slaughter. Yeah, obviously Hawk would dominate, and if he'd been around back in the early 90s, he could have absolutely been in this movie. Tunisian Knife Fighter says, "Hail Drinker and Gman, top content lads. Drinker, have you seen Chopper with Eric Bana? Great Aussie crime flick. Would be keen to hear your thoughts on that." I haven't seen Chopper. No, I don't know if you have, mate.
I have. It's a hardcore movie. Yeah, it's I won't spoil anything, but there's some really cool scenes in it. Yeah. It's kind of like an Aussie Lock, Stock, I guess. It's kind of like the closest comparison in terms of the look and the style of it. So, yeah, definitely check it out, man. It's a great film.
Well, all you have to do is mention Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and I'm in.
Yeah.
An Aussie version of that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Fraga Boom here says, well, Fraga Boom with bacon. So thank you, man. Formerly Rodline says, I worked on the arcade game of the movie. I hope that's true. That sounds fucking great. I do know that they did produce a game based on the film.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
No, but did they not? I think they got some of the actors in to actually animate.
Yeah, they did. I'm pretty sure they just got everyone to do it. It must have been in their contract or something, because I think the game came out around the same time as the movie. So It's just Street Fighter, but it's with the characters from the movie as the sprites instead of the original ones. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Christ, that must have looked weird.
Yeah, you look up pictures of it. It's really odd.
Because that way of animating characters, that was more of a Mortal Kombat thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's how they animated that game.
Totally.
So it would be like, God, the Street Fighter in the format of Mortal Kombat. Damn.
Yeah, it's very odd.
Sunless Germ says, I love the content. Keep it coming. Thank you very much, mate, and I appreciate the donation. Nick B says, this is merely super chat electromagnetism. Surely you've heard of it. Indeed we have. It levitates my desk while I ride the saddle of the world.
Saddle of the world.
Gianni Greco says, Drinker, you godly Glaswegian Goliath, have you ever seen The Sandbaggers, an ITV series from the late 1970s centering on day-to-day operations of SIS? It's all on YouTube and it's a lost gem of espionage TV. I've never even heard of The Sandbaggers. I've got to be honest with you, mate. Late 70s. Christ, that's going back a bit. Yeah, if it's all on YouTube, I'll take a look. Mark the Cyborg says, is there a way to make a Half-Life film without it being fully point of view and Gordon never uttering a word? And why is the answer absolutely not? This is probably a better question for you, mate, rather than me.
What did he say? I didn't understand it.
Is there a way that you could make a Half-Life film without it being point of view of the character and Gordon never uttering a word? And why is the answer not?
Yeah, well, it's just, how do you make a video game? How do you make a film where your protagonist is based off someone who never talks? You can't, because as soon as he opens his mouth, you've ruined it.
Yeah. And it's a shame because a lot of the plot elements from Half-Life would make a great movie.
Yeah,
I just think you couldn't have Gordon Freeman in it. You'd have to have the main character be someone else, and you just happen to see Gordon once in a while. Maybe. Yeah,
the thing that always kind of annoyed me about that too was everyone always saying that, what's his name from Breaking Bad? I can't remember his name. Bryan Cranston. Everyone's always like, oh, Bryan Cranston kind of looks like Gordon Freeman. There's like a photo of him with glasses on, and everyone's like, you should play Gordon Freeman. But Gordon Freeman's like 26 in that game, like in the first Half-Life.
Yeah, it's kind of like, because he's got a goatee. Like,
yeah, and he kind of looks like him. Oh, look,
he
looks like Gordon Freeman, and there's a photo of him photoshopped in the HEV suit. But yeah, it's, people ask me a lot too about like the Doom game. It's like, how do you make a proper Doom film? And I'm like, mate, they've tried twice and they buggered it up both times. It's just leave it alone. You can't. Some games aren't meant to be turned into films.
Yeah, I think when your game is basically just a hardcore like first-person shooter with very little story and just all about blasting demons, like you can't really craft a movie story out of that.
No,
you need
otherwise it's just 90 minutes of killing stuff.
Yeah, you need something with a little bit more of a structure to it and a bit more of a pace, and that's not going to be it.
Absolutely.
Yum Yum Eat 'em Up says, Street Fighter 2 the movie, quick, change the channel. Classic. Yeah. The Justice 35 says, best line of dialogue ever written. I'm going to kick his ass so hard the next Bison wannabe is going to feel it. Delivered by J.C. Van Damme's Belgian accent. Yeah. But he is American in this movie.
Yeah, he's got the tattoo to prove it.
Yeah. Do you remember, like, in that moment, when the camera zooms right in on his arm with the flag on it, just after he's punched the shit out of Bison, you hear like a stretching sound, like his skin's like struggling to hold in the muscle.
Yeah, there's a weird sting to where it's like pew or something like this when he does it. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, they should have had it just go round one, because technically they fight in 2 rounds. Like the first round is when he hits the thing and gets electrocuted. And it's like round 2, and then he gets back up because it's like he's still got a second health bar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'd just be great if a guy was like, finish him. Oh no, that's more Mortal Kombat. Matthew Bickerton says, "Cheers, drinker. Would you consider doing live streams for the Mission Impossible series like you did for the Rocky series?" Yeah, that'd be good, actually. I'd like to do a proper review of some of the Mission Impossible films because, man, the later ones, they've really found their groove. Like, they're great movies.
Oh, the last Mission Impossible ones have been great, yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I think Cruise really found a formula that worked with it. He's got a good group of actors that are in it. It's kind of like, it's like the Fast and the Furious, but with, for espionage films and taken a bit more seriously. It's that same idea of like, big ensemble casts recurring. They've got to do some crazy heist thing.
Yeah, plus the stunts and the action's like legit in those films. You know what I mean? Like Cruise putting his body on the line there, man, to really get these scenes done is pretty impressive stuff. And the dude's pushing like 60 now, and he's still at it.
Yeah,
can't fault him for that. Yeah,
Cruise is some kind of immortal vampire. Like he's, he doesn't seem to age. It's impressive.
I just love the fight scenes in those films because you can actually see what's going on as well. Like that fight scene in, what was the last one that came out? And they're fighting in the bathroom, and you can totally connect every punch and every hit in that to what's happening. It's like super fast paced, but it's none of that like shaky cam bullshit,
Yeah, with like a million jump cuts. It's like, a bunch of actors who actually know what they're doing, and it's well choreographed.
Yeah.
And it's good to see Henry Cavill doing it as well because, I think
underrated actor. He's such an underrated dude.
Yeah, he needs, like, The Witcher is going to be good for him, I think, but he needs a film series where he can really get his teeth into it.
They tried, didn't he? That whole Superman thing, but that was such a shame. Yeah,
I know, because it's a great actor. It's lumbered with shit scripts.
And I loved him as Superman. Like, I thought he was so well cast for that.
Yeah. He looks great.
He's terrible. Yeah, but...
And yeah, I don't know what it'll ultimately be for him. I'd love to see him as Bond. Actually, I think he'd be a good James Bond
because he's British, isn't he? Yeah. So he's got the pedigree for it.
Yeah, he's about the right age now. I think he would be good. Big Dave K says, "I'd love to hear your take on the old dramedy show MASH one of these days. Also, what can one do to get original voice work from you? Sincerely, the Hyena Animator." Oh man, fuck! I forgot about this guy. He did an animation of me, or my voice as a hyena, just laughing my ass off and falling off a couch. It was great. It was hand drawn and everything. Just send me an email to my business email address. Like, you can get it on my YouTube channel, and I'll reply to you. If you just want a bit of voice work or whatever, I'll see if I can sort something out. Just tell me what you want me to say, basically. As for MASH. I didn't really watch that much of it. I know the final episode is an absolute stormer of a show. I've seen that, and man, it's pretty hard hitting. For a pretty lighthearted TV show, that's pretty serious stuff that they go into with it. So
don't a few of the main characters get killed or something? Isn't it pretty nasty what happens to a few of them?
Well, one of them is he's kind of been traumatized by what he's experienced, and initially he describes it as they were on a bus behind enemy lines with a bunch of civilians, and there was soldiers around them, and a woman had a pet,
grenade,
no, she had a chicken or something that was making noise, and it was going to attract the attention of the soldiers, and she killed it to stop them hearing it, but then you find out as the episode goes on, it wasn't a chicken, it was her own child.
Oh, fuck.
And damn, that, for a show like that to go into that sort of territory, that is fucking hardcore. So yeah, that was a pretty impressive thing. Apparently MASH, the final episode, was the most watched show in history. Basically everyone was tuned into it when it was the finale of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's the most syndicated show in the history of television, right? In terms of just the amount of countries it's been shown in. It's got some record for that. Maybe it's been broken since, but I know there's a point when it had some kind of crazy record like that.
Yeah. Someone was asking in chat as well, did you see WandaVision? Kevin Smith cry. Kevin Smith cries when I open a packet of crisps, man. Anything will set that guy off. But I did see the end of WandaVision, and it was a bit disappointing. I generally liked the show. And I liked the way it played out. The attention to detail was great, but like the actual resolution with it, I was just like, what has this actually accomplished?
I haven't actually watched that. I've heard conflicting things about it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, did you say you have watched it or you
haven't?
haven't?
No, I haven't. No, I'm just over Marvel stuff, dude. I'm just burnt out after the whole, like, whatever their last phase was called. I just find the whole thing so boring now. It just doesn't really interest me.
I'm with you on that one. Like, as far as I'm concerned, Endgame was pretty much the end of it for me.
Yeah, it was the end of the game.
Exactly, yeah. And, everything that they've got lined up in the next phase, like, I don't give a shit about it. Not particularly interested. WandaVision was funny because it was like, whoa, this is Marvel doing something creative and different and weird. That's not like them. And it kind of got my interest, but then the actual resolution to the whole thing was just like, oh. And I'm watching what I say here because there'll be a lot of people that haven't seen it yet. But it's just like, it kind of just feels like we've gone back to where we were before, so don't really see the point. But
yeah,
whatever. What's the next one? Hentai Senpai says, Drinker, watch Street Fighter 2. It's anime from 1994 and the best video game adaptation. You will make a happy hour or Drinker recommends about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, there you go. That's another recommendation.
There we go. I've got to see it. Emperor J. Bama fan says, just watched Coming to America and it's trash. Yeah, I've heard a few people talk about this being shit.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Someone texted me last night actually saying they thought it was really funny. I haven't watched it yet, but I love the original movie. Like the original's classic. Yeah, so that's
absolutely.
If it's not good, yeah.
I think trying to make something like this, like 30 years after the fact, that's a challenge,
Yeah.
Jeff Tucker says, can I get a shout out to Band of Badgers crew? Search YouTube, please, Drinker. Have a Jack Daniels on me. Everyone go see Band of Badgers. They sound awesome. Colin Ewan says, Drinker, you rambunctious raconteur, would you ever review Where Eagles Dare? Yay or nay? Interesting you should say that, because I'm going to do a Drinker short on it. So on my second channel, I've started doing shorter reviews called Drinkers Extra Shots. And I've been wanting to review Where Eagles Dare for ages, and that seems like the perfect place. I fucking love that movie. I love old classic war movies, and it's one of the best. So yeah, 100% recommend it. I mean, it's got Clint Eastwood dual wielding machine guns to kill German soldiers in World War II. What more do you want?
Yeah, that's a pretty hard sell. You got me there. Yeah.
Dr. Zawodin says, tough luck, kid. Get drunk on me. Use the ice to wash down your marbles. Cheers, man. Thank you for that. Jen C says, hey, Drinker, have you seen the Van Damme movie, The Quest? I've always enjoyed that movie. Give it a watch. Yeah, that's another fighting tournament movie. It's got Roger Moore in it as well.
Roger Moore?
Damn. Yeah.
Wow. I actually didn't know that. I love Roger Moore. My favorite Bond.
Yeah, he was the one that was always on TV, when I was growing up. I think every generation has their Bond that's always showing their movies on TV, and for some reason, it was always Roger Moore films. And so I've always got a special place in my heart for his films.
Yeah, I love Roger Moore's Bond stuff.
6 Turn and 4 Burning says, Kylie and Ming Na with Julia's over-the-top acting, and his for me, it was Tuesday Light. Make this movie a guilty pleasure. Don't feel guilty about it. It should just be a pleasure for you. Also from this guy says, another movie that showcases Raul Julia's over-the-top acting is the comedy Moon Over Parador with Richard Dreyfuss. I've not seen that one, so I couldn't say, but man, I'd like to see more of his stuff. Carlos Garcia says, I know Gman liked it, but what does Drinker think off Alan Wake, especially from a narrative perspective? And also, Gman, what are you working on next?
What was the first part of the question?
So he was asking me, because I think you like Alan Wake. He's asking what I think of it. Yeah. I've not played it, so I don't know. And I'm sorry I can't answer that question, but yeah, I've not played it.
It's basically like a Twin Peaks inspired game about like a guy who's a novelist who has writer's block, so he goes to this like secluded town in like somewhere in the fictional American town, I think somewhere. like a logging town, kind of like where Twin Peaks is set, and then all this weird shit starts happening, which he realizes is based off a book he hasn't yet written or something. It's really cool though. Like, it's very narrative driven, but it's made by like the guys who made Max Payne, and it's kind of dumbed down like gameplay compared to the stuff they've done in the past. But the story's pretty cool, and I think once you play it once, you probably would never really need to play it again. But yeah, you might like it if you like that kind of weird, wacky Twin Peaks element combined with like the horror stuff that they put in. It's pretty interesting. There's not really any other thing like it ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that would draw me in, because I like games with a really strong narrative to them, and if you can incorporate some like kind of surrealist stuff and a bit of horror elements, then yeah, I mean, that would be great. Like, I was trying to there was a game I played where it's like, it was Call of Cthulhu, where you go to like an island, and like it's kind of there's been all kinds of like paranormal happenings there, and you've got to investigate like a family murder and stuff, and like eventually it's like you've got all this kind of demonic possession stuff going on, and it's just really cool the way the tension kind of builds up, and it's like it's all very narrative focused, and yeah, just a really good game. It's the kind of thing that really grabs my attention.
Yeah.
What's the next one here? Keckman says, Critical Drinker, thank you for your videos on fixing characters, especially Finn. A huge missed opportunity. There was so much potential there. Also, thank you for being true and having no bullshit. Cheers. Well, thank you very much. I try not to bullshit people. Yeah, like when I do reviews of stuff, I just want to be fair about movies and games or whatever it is I'm reviewing. And so, even if it's a movie that's getting a lot of shit, like I would rather like try and find positives in it if there's any, and just be honest about it. So that's what I try and do. And as for Finn, yeah, such a shame, because you've got a good actor there and you had a character with a lot of potential, and just got totally squandered. So such a shame. Dennis Peterson says, have you seen Nowhere to Run with Jean Claude Van Damme? It's a serious role and his best film, I think. I'm trying to remember that one. Is that where he's an escaped convict or something?
I've not seen it, yeah.
Right. I mean, personally, my favorite for him would be JCVD. Like, that is a great film. And his acting in that is like, damn, like I never knew Jean-Claude Van Damme could actually act, but he really can. He nails it. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but if you haven't, I totally recommend it.
Yeah.
But it's like he plays like basically himself, like a kind of slightly fictionalized version of himself, but he's really honest about how like his career's on the rocks, and he's like had all these addiction problems, and this, he's kind of a burnout now. But it's really good.
Yeah.
Wormy Spoons says, Drinker, I hope you're well. I am, thank you. Can you please watch and review What Dreams May Come, this visually stunning masterpiece I think so under the radar? Thank you. I haven't seen it, What Dreams May Come. Have you at all?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Okay. I need to look it up, to be honest, because I don't know much about it right now. Stybeck B says, Ready Player One is simply the must-read for every gamer. I'm having a blast with it. Is the movie worth watching? Gman, buy Drinker game Blasphemous.
I haven't played that. I know what it is, but I haven't played it.
As for Ready Player One, yep, loved the book. It really kind of understands the mechanics of playing a game, especially a Mamorpaga, like they have in the Oasis. I think the movie does its best with some pretty difficult source material, because they have to make a lot of concessions to like keeping the pace up, because like the book actually unfolds over a space of like 6 months or something. It's really long, whereas the movie's much faster paced. Some of the decisions are a bit weird, like using The Shining of all things as a reference for movies is a bit odd, but yeah, generally I think it's good. I came out of the movie feeling good and feeling like I enjoyed myself. It wasn't as good as the book, but it just felt like a nice, like refreshing, old-fashioned kind of movie, and it was Spielberg, so I miss that kind of stuff. I miss movies that just told a nice story. So, SO47 says, Hey Drinker, love your content. You ever consider reviewing Trainspotting? Good question. I thought I talked about this before. Like, I kind of recognize how important a movie Trainspotting was, but I think it's been talked about and I've seen it so many times that I'm almost like done with it. Like, I don't really want any more of it. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting kind of movie. I don't know what I can add to the conversation on it, I suppose. That's the thing. And yeah, it's very much like a product of its time. Like the kind of Edinburgh that you see in Trainspotting isn't like what it is now, if that makes sense. It's very, very much changed. That was a very 90s vision of what Scotland was like. So I don't know, man. It wouldn't be top of my list of movies to review, put it that way. Night King 01 says, it's true dedication when Raul Julia did all his own stunts in the film while having stomach cancer. What a legend. His line when he says, of course.
Yeah, there's a shot of him when he like swings across on a rope to that little ledge thing, and that's clearly him. They show his face. You can see him full on. You know, when like he's coming over to fight Guile, it's like, yeah, that's Raul Julia swinging across. That's badass.
Yeah, no, I like it. Stybeck B also says, Drinker, calling you out to make content about Mass Effect series, preferably streaming where we can hear you enjoying the best space opera in history. I should do that, actually. That'd be a good way to do it. Because the games are huge. Like, you're talking like 40 or 50 hours, I think, for each one.
Yeah. If you're going to 100% everything, yeah.
Yeah. I've played the first one. I've never completed it, but damn, I don't know why I never got into it more. I think I just didn't have time, like at the time, and then it just kind of passed me by. But I should probably go back to it. Gamertarian says, "Hail Drinker, if you haven't seen it, you absolutely need to watch and cover Deadwood. No better dialogue has ever been crafted for television." Yeah, Ian McShane in that show was awesome. It was pretty decent. Like, Dan Ronan says, wonder how a Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat movie directed by Zack Snyder might work. Cheers to you both. I imagine there'd be lots of slow motion.
Yeah, I imagine it would be very visually striking with not much underneath it.
Yeah. How are you feeling about the whole Snyder cut of Justice League?
I didn't really give a shit. I don't think it's really going to be that groundbreaking. Do you know what I mean? But if they need to cling on to some kind of hope that series still has any potential, then that's fine, man. Let people believe that. I mean, it'll just be interesting to see all the new shots. I'll probably just watch it because I just want to see what he's done with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of always interested in like versions of movies that never got made, or like the original idea or whatever. And like, I think this is a good example of that, where he had his original concept and it got taken over by Joss Whedon, and then you got a completely different film. It's like, oh, it'd be really interesting to see what he originally wanted to do. And
Justice League just has those scenes where you just know it's like a Joss Whedon thing. Like everyone, like you can just tell it's like a weird reshoot because they look different and they kind of sound different. And it's like, oh, this is something they've just kind of chucked in. It will be just good to see something that is just, this is start to finish without sort of being messed around with and swapped.
Yeah. My barometer for that movie is Ben Affleck. If you just look at him, like, that you can tell the Joss Whedon bits because he's like 30 pounds heavier and like he's got a different complexion and his hair's different and everything. It's just like, they didn't even try to make him look like he's supposed to. And it's weird. It's really weird. So I kind of hope that it's a massive success just to like totally upset the DCEU, and then they're going to be left wondering, what the fuck do we do with this? Because it's going in like a dozen different directions. It feels like, you've got the sort of people who are as loyal to Zack Snyder and his vision, and that's like kind of having a bit of a resurgence. You've got like Robert Pattinson playing Batman now, so that's a weird like alternate thing that's trying to get off the ground. You've got God knows what, like Harley Quinn movies or whatever coming up. Wonder Woman 2 was a flop. What else are they going to do? They've got Suicide Squad coming up again, like basically a soft reboot of that. Like, it's all over the place, and damn, I have no idea what they're doing with it.
Yeah, it's just directionless.
Yeah, I mean, I'll at least give the MCU credit for being consistent Like they had a consistent line and a consistent like chronology that they're following, and they've stuck to it.
And I guess that like the Zack Snyder cut, like it's not going to be canon, right? Because it's sort of separate from this main storyline. So is it just like a side thing that doesn't really have any bearing? Like, what does it mean?
I think I don't know, mate. I think it's going to very much depend on how it's received. If somehow, against the odds, it becomes like some smash hit success, they will move pretty quickly to make it canon somehow.
Yeah.
And maybe just like move away from the rest of the stuff and just try and like reestablish the Snyderverse. I have no idea how they'll sell it, but fuck, like I'm sure there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an absolute mess of a universe. Like I almost think like you'd just be better off shit canning the whole thing and starting again.
Yeah, it's getting to that point.
But Duaro on gave me a super sticker for €5, so thanks, man. Juan Santiago Bagaria says, Drinker, please tell GmanLives to erase my name from the end credits of their videos. I feel guilty not being a patron anymore and see my name on that glorious doom door.
What did he say? He's a...
I think he used to be a patron, but he isn't anymore. But like,
what's his name?
Juan Santiago Bagaria.
Okay. I mean, there's 5 other platforms you could have asked that, but sure, I'll make a mental note to do that. Wow. Thank you for letting me know.
Strange time to bring it up, but yeah.
Yeah. Strange comment, but okay.
Kalashnikov says, regarding clicking guns in movies, it's the same with katanas. They always clank in movies, but it's a sign of shitty old katana. Good luck with the new book. Yeah, did they not make that humming noise a lot of the time with swords? Like they draw them from their scabbards, and they're just kind of moving them across the screen, but they somehow go like It's like I'm that fucking sharp. I'm actually cutting air molecules as I go.
Cutting through dust as it goes through the
air. Styback B says, G-Man, can you please convince Drinker to start PC gaming? Otherwise, he will not have a chance to enjoy modded Mass Effect in May. Hashtag save Miranda's assets.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest travesty ever. You heard about that? They're getting rid of all the arse shots? Oh, you knew about that. You tweeted about it, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Christ, that took off. I think some of the game's journalists weren't too pleased with it.
A couple of harmless arse shots need to be patched out of a game. It's ridiculous.
I know. It's just...
Jeez.
It's
part of the
world we're in.
Point, isn't it? Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like I'm going to find something to get offended by. God.
Yeah.
That's why I miss gaming as it was in like the 90s, because they just didn't give a shit. It's like we've got the ability to animate boobs now. We're going for it 100% every chance we get. It's like, yeah,
like
why not?
You're talking about Time Splitters and that before we're talking about it, and like, yeah, there's the female characters in that have these giant tits for some reason, and they're because it would be before physics, so they've had to hand animate the way they move when they're walking. It's like, yeah, someone took the time to do that for all these female characters.
Yeah. Malcolm McKee says, Ty, Ryu, and Ken are con men in the film. Supposedly best friends, but Ken is the only one who calls him Ryu. Shout out to Hawaiian E Honda. Yeah. Yeah, he's gone from Japanese to Hawaiian for some reason.
Yeah.
Jerry Brown says, always felt there was a divide between Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat fans. Personally, I could beat anyone at Tekken 3. Love all your vids and books. Cheers, mate. I don't know if there was a divide. Like I never got that sense at school or anything. It's just like you kind of had both most of the time.
They were both awesome. So yeah, I didn't really have a divide between people I knew who played it. Maybe between Nintendo and Sega, but yeah. Street Fighter was all good.
Well, I remember like when the PlayStation and the Saturn came out, there was a real rivalry then for some reason, like here in the UK. And the guys who got Saturns were like, the PlayStations are shit. But then pretty quickly they started going quiet about it when they actually had to play games on the Saturn.
Yeah, the Saturn died out pretty quick too. Like it was in Australia and it was just came and went like a fart. It was just like caught in the breeze and disappeared. Like no one ever really played them, talked about them.
Yeah, it was around for like a year or so, and like they just could not get it off the ground here.
No.
And
they had the 32X, which was that attachment to the Mega Drive, then the Saturn, and then I think the Dreamcast was after that too.
Yes, yeah.
And then that was it for Sega.
Pretty much, yeah. And like Sega, just they never really planned out things. They just kind of thought shit up and did it. And I think they were always kind of competing with like the last generation rather than planning ahead for the next one. So like, I think the Saturn, when it was designed, it was originally meant to be this big, powerful 2D console that would destroy the Super Nintendo. And then along comes the PlayStation that's like miles ahead of it. And they're like, oh, fuck, what do we do? And I think their solution was just like, oh, we'll slap in an extra processor and just hope for the best. And it's like, yeah, but nobody knows how to fucking use it.
I think it was the Saturn was what, like, were they still using bits at that point? Because it was like the Master System and the NES were 8-bit, the Mega Drive was 16-bit, right? And I think the Saturn was like 64 bits, or was the 64 actually 64 bits? Hence the title. Maybe that's
no,
right.
it was kind of confusing. Like the Saturn was 32, like the PlayStation, but it had a weird architecture where it had 2 processors in it, and nobody knew how to program for that. And so all the 3D games looked like absolute shit. Whereas the PlayStation, it was designed to do 3D, so it generally was quite easy to work with. And then, like a year or 2 later, the Nintendo 64 came out, and I just remember that being this weird thing that like kind of arrived late to the party and like didn't really make an impression. The only good thing was like GoldenEye. Everyone fucking loved GoldenEye. And it was awesome. I'll give them that. But yeah, everyone was about the PlayStation, I think, over here.
64 was pretty big in Australia. There was a divide between that when that came out was 64 and PlayStation players, because at that point it was like, yeah, they were really different games. Like you couldn't get Banjo-Kazooie and this kind of stuff on a PlayStation. And PlayStation had like Final Fantasy and Metal Gear Solid and that kind of shit. So that was where the divide started. Then you got the Xbox, which just made it even worse once that thing came out.
Yeah. I just remember the Dreamcast as well, just being this. It was kind of sad. Like it just never really took off here at all.
Yeah, I knew one person who had it.
Yeah, like I think everyone got burned by the Saturn, and they were just like, "Nah, Sega's kind of done." And it's a shame because it was like, I think it was quite a good console, apparently.
Yeah, the ports that were on different, like the ports of like Toy Story, for instance, and I had a House of the Dead port, which was really good. I mean, for a console, it came with like a gun controller and everything.
Yeah, and it had a modem built into it, so you could go online. Holy shit, I could go online with my console. Who would have thought it? But no one used it because everyone was still on dial-up back then.
It was tragic.
Stephen Bobo says, "Hey Drinker and G-Man, here's a random fact. The concept for Mortal Kombat game was originally based on JCVD's Bloodsport movie, and Johnny Cage is based on Jean Claude Van Damme." I didn't know that, actually.
I remember reading that somewhere. He has the same move and everything where he does the splits and punches the dude in the nuts, from memory.
Cool.
So that's where that came from, yeah.
Because that was Van Damme's big break, wasn't it? Bloodsport. That was what really put him on the map.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just catching up with these ones here. Here we go. Little Bear says, "Drinker, please watch and review the TV show Banshee starring Anthony, the star from The Boys. You won't regret it." Yeah, I've heard good things about Banshee. I've not seen it, but if Anthony stars in it, that's enough to get me watching because that guy's awesome. Jev Lum says, "Enjoying this stream a lot, gentlemen. Raul Julia's M. Bison and Kari, I can't say this one. Hiroyuki Tagawa's Shang Tsung are top-tier video game movie portrayals." I'm not going to argue with that one.
Great.
Oki Native says, "Has G-Man ever seen Quigley Down Under or Blow Dry?"
No, I don't know what either I saw.
This guy was on at me for ages to watch Quigley Down Under, and I was like, "Man, he's given me so many super chats. I've got to see it," and so I did. So
Quigley Down Under. I'll make a note of it. Quigley Down Under.
Yeah.
When you type in Quig, the first thing that comes up is Quigley, like auto-corrected to it.
Yeah, it's that well known.
Yeah.
I think it's like a kind of Western thing, but it's set in Australia, so fair enough. Douglas Burton says, "Drinker, you relayed bastard. You need to cover Blade Runner with Doomcock. Cheers, fellas." I mean, I've already done a review of Blade Runner and the sequel. What more can I do? I know Doomcock, I think he'd made a video recently talking about why Deckard is a replicant, like definitively. I mean, I'm not like I've not really gone through the movie with a fine-tooth comb, so I couldn't refute it, but I always think it's just good that you can have a bit of ambiguity in a film like that. It's like, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. You don't quite know, and you're not meant to.
Yeah.
But anyway, Night King 01 says, how crazy was Van Damme to snort $100,000 worth of cocaine on a set in a country where the penalty for drug possession is death? This is Van Damme, man. He doesn't give a shit. Malcolm McKee says,
I'm just going to go to the bathroom real quick, dude. Give me 2 seconds.
All right. Yeah, no worries, mate. OG Mortal Kombat is basically Enter the Dragon with Mortal Kombat characters. Street Fighter, the movie, was more original in that respect. Yeah, like we were saying earlier, like Street Fighter became this like completely different thing that went down a different path, and it became like a war movie with like all these different action elements and stuff. And you know, you can like that or hate it, but like it's, I suppose it's different. It's not expected, especially when you got Van Damme in it. You think he's just going to be in a fighting tournament movie, as he always is. But yeah, the result was a film that was extremely entertaining, as we were talking about. Stephen Bobo says, most action movies back in the day you see have a mixture of pro wrestlers and pro fighters to give the movie a level of realism. Yeah. I think Mortal Kombat did that quite a bit, where it's like you either had, you know, fighters who didn't have any acting talent or experience, or you had actors who didn't know how to fight. And so they made for a really weird mashup in a movie like that. John Ochiltree says, I'm not into gaslighting or lying, but did you know that after being in Braveheart, the drinker played Jean Claude Van Damme's son in Sudden Death? Powers Booth said that he was physically afraid of the drinker. Well, you know, everyone is. It's only when I've had a few drinks in me, though, which is most of the time. SO47 says, if you enjoy games with great story and well-written characters, at least some of them, Dragon Age Origins DLC with Shale is a must. See, I played Dragon Age Inquisition, but I don't think I played Origins. I'm going to see if Gman's played that.
What was that?
Have you played Dragon Age Origins by any chance?
No, I haven't. I played one of the Dragon Age games for about 15 minutes, and that's my entire experience with the series.
See, I was just saying there, I played Inquisition. That's my experience with the series, and I quite liked it, actually. But yeah, not played Origins yet. Night King 01 says, ever thought about covering the Arkham games or playing them on stream? Arkham Asylum and Arkham City are definitive Batman. Shame that DCEU Batman is not as good. Yeah, I've heard really good things about the Arkham Asylum games, and I would like to give them a go. I just haven't had time to do it yet. But who knows? Maybe I'll try to find it. Rico Marasama says, have either of you seen Street Fighter Ansatsuken? It's the only Street Fighter movie that competes with the anime. I think it was crowdfunded too.
Right.
It sounds weirdly. It sounds weirdly familiar. I don't know if I've seen clips from it or something, but yeah, I've never seen the whole thing. Dennis Peterson says, Nowhere to Run from 1993, and Jean-Claude Van Damme plays a convict. Yes, that's it. Ted Levine mocks his accent because he can't say the word triumph in English. Yeah, I have seen that movie. Yeah, I'm sure he's a convict. He escapes prison, and he holds up on a farm or something, and he ends up having to defend like the family there from like a local gang or something like that.
Right.
That's my understanding anyway. But yeah, that I think is the last of the super chats. We made it. We made it to the end.
Awesome.
And what a movie it's been to talk about.
Ultimate classic.
Yeah. Oh, see, there's just one more that's come here. Phil Moore says, when are you doing a review for Ernest Goes to Africa? Never. I hate the Ernest movies. But yeah, sorry, what was I saying there? Yeah, so obviously, yeah, we got a chance to talk about one of the greatest video game adaptations of all time, and damn man, it was great to be able to chat with you about it. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming back on stream and taking the time to do this, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
No, it's a lot of fun, man. I'm glad we could discuss, a culturally significant film that should be preserved and, protected at all costs. I think we can both agree.
It absolutely should be. I want to see this thing in the Smithsonian. You know?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to like the next sort of cut of it, right? Like when we get like some kind of 8K release, and then you can watch it on like a giant projector and just really appreciate it. Do you know what I mean? Like an IMAX screen or something.
Yeah,
That's what I want.
you can still see the particles of cocaine on like
Yeah,
Van Damme's
exactly.
nose.
Yeah, and that little like fucking thing he's got on his forehead. Yeah, the lesion or whatever it is.
Yeah, it would be like the size of my fucking PlayStation or something.
This dinner plate size thing on his head.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? But no, so I mean, for Gman, like the link to his channel is in the description. So I suggest and I highly recommend that you give him a follow, especially if you're into video games, because he does amazing video reviews and retrospectives and stuff. Like you do all kinds of things, really. Like you've kind of covered a lot of like older games, but like new stuff as well. So
yeah, it's pretty much whatever I'm playing. If I like it, I'll usually try to do something on it just to talk about it.
Have you got anything coming up that you'd like to make people aware of?
There's like a couple of things. Like I did that James Bond video recently, and I'm probably going to go back and try and look at some of the other games that I missed, because there's a few ones in there. Like there was a From Russia with Love video game that a lot of people really enjoyed. And then there was like a Pierce Brosnan one that they made that was like after Die Another Day, which I think we both agree was terrible. They made like another game with Pierce Brosnan doing the voice work and stuff, and people kind of consider that his send-off because it's a better Bond film and a better story than Die Another Day. So I thought I might do a video on that maybe, and yeah, just play around with that. There's not much happening in gaming this year. It's kind of boring, to be honest, isn't it? Apart from like Resident Evil, I think is in May, and that's like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to play that, and I think I'll stream it as I play it for the first time, so people can watch me get killed over and over and totally fuck up. But yeah, I mean that should be good. But like, yeah, I am kind of struggling to think of stuff that's coming up. Like, I was lucky enough to be able to get a PS5 like pretty much when it launched, and I haven't got any like PS5 exclusive games for it yet, even now.
Because there's nothing to play.
Yeah, it's like I'm just playing like PS4 stuff on it, but it's like, well, it looks nice at least, and it loads a bit quicker, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Just one more super chat there I got there from Kimasabe. Says, have you watched the Raid Redemption? It's similar premise to Dread. Yeah, I have watched it. I've watched both Raid movies, and they were both excellent. But yeah, so I think we've finished up the super chats. I think we've kind of covered everything. I just want to say to everyone who's been watching this, like, thank you, everyone in chat, for joining us. Thank you for all the generous super chats. It's really appreciated. And hopefully we'll see you again next time. But for now, that is all that we've got for today. So we're going to go away now.